Chapter 1. It was a night when only the wicked were brave enough to step outdoors. A flood advisory had been issued, warning residents to stay indoors. Not that they'd be missing much. There wasn't a lot to do in a small town like Bayless, which could only brag of a grocery mart that doubled as a supply store. The relentless showers of the afternoon had continued their rally across the rural town's already soggy grounds into the late evening hours. Inside her two-story cabin, Maggie Caldwell pulled back a curtain to see if her husband's approaching car was anywhere in sight. Her hot breath against the rattling cold glass clouded her view. She wiped the condensation with her hand to see the massive rows of oak trees that surrounded her home, their wet leaves flapping around in panic as though they too were scared of the night's storm. Lightning flashed above, illuminating her face for a brief second. The dogs outside barked incessantly from the nearby shed, begging to be let loose. "Mama?" Maggie turned to see her 6-year-old daughter, Crystal, standing at the base of the stairs. Betsy, Crystal's beloved rag doll, swayed in her grip as she ran towards her mother in her pink pajamas. Her blonde hair was loose in wild curls. "Did the rain wake you, or have you been up this entire time?" Maggie asked the precocious child with a slight smile. Maggie had read Crystal her bedtime story over an hour ago. Crystal smiled, showing off her missing front tooth before running upstairs, her laughter trailing behind her. Maggie was right behind her, trudging up the steps as her thoughts wandered to her husband's whereabouts once again. After Maggie tucked her daughter back into bed, she twisted the crank to her daughter's music box. It had become a nightly ritual for Crystal to hear the soft melody before drifting off to sleep. "This song is sad, Mama," Crystal whispered, listening to the delicate melody. Engraved on the music box was a forlorn-looking prince and princess, neither happy with the other. The edges of the box were lined in silver that had begun to chip. "It is. But someone special gave this to me," Maggie said, stroking her daughter's cheek. "Is that why you gave it to me?" Crystal asked, hugging her doll tighter to her chest. "Of course. I want to share everything special with the person I love most in the world," Maggie said, before tickling her daughter. Outside, the sky roared and the lights flickered, causing both Maggie and Crystal to jump. "Will you read me a story?" "I'm too scared to sleep," Crystal confessed. Maggie kissed her daughter's forehead. "Of course I'll read you another story." After reading her daughter a tale about a brave princess and a ferocious dragon, Maggie's eyes drifted towards the princess clock that hung in her daughter's room. It was close to 10. She made her way downstairs and picked up the house phone, trying to dial her husband's work number. He didn't answer. She thought about the pager he wore and remembered him telling her not to call it unless there was an emergency. Maggie sighed, thinking how a wife's emergency could be a husband's annoyance. Her fingers floated above her phone for a moment before she grimaced and decided not to call her husband's work again. Hadn't they just had an argument about her not always calling him at work? Maggie paced in circles around the area rug downstairs, hoping her husband hadn't been in an accident. She looked at the fireplace where pictures of her family and friends stood. "Where are you?" she asked, as if her husband could magically hear her. The barking of her dogs was becoming louder, almost vicious. A sudden pounding at the door caused her to still. Her body froze in place, not sure if she had heard correctly. Who could possibly be outside at this hour, in this weather? Rain battered against the roof as she waited. She wasn't disappointed. 3 fierce pounds once again banged against her front door. Maggie slowly took a step forward. Who's there?" Another 3 pounds against the door answered back. In a louder voice she asked, "Who's there? Who are you? Open the damn door!" Fear burned her chest as she nervously licked her lip. "Go away, or I'll call the police." Maggie was grateful for the dog's barking. Perhaps it would scare the man away. She picked up the receiver of her phone and tried to dial out again without success. It wasn't unusual for the phone lines to suddenly go down because of a storm. Maggie cursed as she once again wondered where her husband was. She slowly moved one foot in front of the other as she walked closer to the door. She wanted to see if the man had left. Bayless was a small town. Everyone knew everyone. It was a well-known fact that the Caldwells lived in their cabin on the outskirts of town, hidden in the forest, because they enjoyed the outdoors and the quiet. But unless you knew where the Caldwell cabin was, you probably would never find it by accident. Since the pounding at her door had stopped, Maggie allowed herself to breathe and hoped the man had left. She turned around to head back to Crystal's room when she heard a whelping sound from outside. Dread sizzled down her spine as she felt a knot of fear get stuck in her throat. Why did the dog stop barking? Another rumbling from the sky caused her to jump. Cautiously, Maggie once again made her way to a window. Rain continued to pelt her roof as she slowly pulled back the curtain. A man's face stared back at her. Maggie gasped and fell backward before scrambling to get up. Why wasn't her husband here? The pounding on the door spurred Maggie to run upstairs to where Crystal was. "Mama, what's going on?" Crystal asked, rubbing her eyes after suddenly being woken by her panicked mother. 15. Don't ask questions, baby. Shh. Stay quiet. Mama wants you to play a game with her, okay? Do you want to play a game with me? A game? Crystal repeated. Yes, a game. I want you to play hide and seek. Hide in the closet, and no matter what, don't come out. Understand? Crystal clutched her rag doll and nodded as Maggie ushered her into the small space. Maggie kissed Crystal. Stay quiet. Your daddy is the only one that can find you, okay? No matter what you hear, you stay hidden in this closet, okay? Promise me. Mama, you're scaring me. I know, baby, and I'm sorry, but I need you to promise me you'll stay hidden and wait for your daddy. Crystal shrugged her tiny shoulders before saying, I promise, Mama. I love you, baby. Crystal nodded, and Maggie gave her another kiss on the forehead before telling her to close her eyes and count to as high as she could remember. Maggie closed the door and ran back downstairs, desperation engulfing every movement. She could see the door frame budging with each forceful kick from her uninvited guest. The uninvited visitor's deep voice growled through the rain. Let me in! Panic bubbled up inside her. I called the police. They're on their way. Laughter. His laughter mocked her. Was he the cause of her dead phone line? Maggie ran to the kitchen and grabbed a butcher knife. She pushed her feet into the rain boots that were next to the kitchen door before locking herself outside. She slowly edged around the corner of the house, rain slapping at her face. She could still hear him demanding to be let in. She watched as he finally kicked open her front door, the light from inside shining against his wet raincoat. She ran towards him, knife above her head, ready to mortally wound. He quickly turned around and kicked her before she could get close enough to do any damage. You're an idiot, he sneered. He picked up the fallen knife and pulled her by the hair, dragging her inside. Maggie attempted to get away, but he grabbed her leg and pulled her towards him. Why are you doing this? She asked, now sobbing. You know why I'm doing this. She watched as his gloved hands pulled some rope from the large pocket of his raincoat. He had clearly come prepared. Maggie bit against the piece of cloth that was shoved in her mouth. Her wrists burned from the rope as he dragged her to where Crystal's room was. Her body bounced onto the mattress as he shoved her away and looked around the empty room, his eyes fixated on the closet door where Crystal was hidden. He softly chuckled as he tightened his grip on the knife Maggie had dropped earlier. Maggie screamed through the cloth in her mouth. First, I'm going to take care of her. Then I'm going to take care of you. A muffled scream filled the air as the man opened the closet door. Chapter 2. Present Day. The waiting room of Pathways Center for Victims of Abuse smelled like burnt pencil erasers. At least that's what Abby Redding thought as she sat in one of its uncomfortable wooden chairs. She didn't bother to read the outdated Good Living magazines spread out on the plastic coffee table, seeing recipes for food she couldn't afford, and directions on how to make pointless crafts like cinnamon centerpieces always left a bitter taste in her mouth. Pamphlets for local counseling centers, sexually transmitted diseases, and abortion clinics were prominently displayed near the receptionist's window. Above the display was a banner that read, Time heals all wounds. Abby smirked. Time never healed any of her wounds. If anything, it left her with some gnarly-looking scars and severe anxiety. Abby fidgeted in her seat as the door to the waiting room's entrance swung open and an emaciated blonde walked in, wearing a red tank and cut-off shorts. Her left arm was covered in random, seemingly meaningless tattoos, unless she had an affinity for hangul, spiders, and Care Bears. She signed in and groaned as she sat across from Abby, who felt overdressed in her black suit and cheap Payless heels. She wondered if the blonde refused to wear makeup or simply chose to display her unattractive hickeys and matching black eye. Abby's tongue felt thick in her mouth, and a queasy feeling started to spread in her belly. She touched a wooden bead of the bracelet she always wore. I'm alive. Her fingers deftly moved to the next bead. I have a roof over my head. Miss Redding, the receptionist behind the bulletproof glass called out. A door next to the receptionist opened wide, revealing a heavy-set woman with short dark hair. She gestured for Abby to follow her. Abby's heels clicked against the linoleum floor as she disappeared behind the door and down the corridor to her caseworker's office. The caseworker's chair squeaked with her weight as she opened Abby's file, glancing at the name. Miss Redding? She asked absently, making sure she was talking to the person who matched the file in front of her. The question irked Abby, who had been in this office numerous times before. Yes, Abby answered, swallowing her irritation. Right, you're here because of the job interview this afternoon. Sorry for the short notice, but you're one of the few clients I have who has a college degree and still looking for a job. Without thinking, Abby touched a bead from her bracelet. I'm college educated. I hope you know how lucky you are to get this opportunity. You're going to flip when I tell you who it's for. The caseworker licked her sausage-like lips in anticipation. Alex Carter! Abby suddenly understood why her caseworker at Pathways had been so aghast by the fact that she didn't know who Alex Carter was. One look, and no woman or man would ever forget the face of the enigmatic male behind the polished desk that screamed wealthy. His strong jaw showed a hint of an afternoon shadow. Above his high cheekbones were eyes the exact shade of cornflower blue. His dark, tousled hair gave him a rakish appearance which made him seem somewhat unpredictable. He loosened his tie before gesturing for her to take a seat. You're the one from Pathways? He asked, as he put down his phone and half-heartedly perused a file in front of him that Abby assumed was her resume. Yes, sir. That's correct. It was my mother's idea to hire someone from there. I was against it, but she insisted. I'm very demanding, and I have a feeling anyone from Pathways wouldn't last long, so I agreed. I figured I'd do my bit of charity and get my mother off my back all in one go. The man's candor was appalling, but he didn't bother to look at Abby as his eyes continued to survey her resume. The position is for a personal assistant, but this job won't necessarily have you in the office. Will that be a problem? Not at all, Abby answered, thinking of the piling collection notices and the empty refrigerator waiting for her when she returned home. I see you have a degree in business with a minor in public relations. Impressive. Why haven't you had a real job? A real job? Abby asked, unprepared for the direct assault his question had on her ego. She mistakenly thought it died long ago and wasn't sure how to feel about that discovery. Alex sighed, tossing her resume on his desk. Let's cut to the chase. I need an assistant. You need a job. I'm not going to ask you a bunch of pointless questions trying to find out what your biggest accomplishment in life is. I just want to know if I can trust you or not, and if you're smart enough to know what 2 + 2 is. So explain to me why you haven't held a real job related to your degree. You went to a state school, which wouldn't have necessarily held you back. Abby gripped her wrist, feeling the smooth beads of her bracelet pressing into her palm. I'm not weak anymore. I'm strong. Abby cleared her throat before pulling her shoulders back. Pathways is designated to help victims of abuse. I'm sure you can deduce why I'm a client of theirs. I haven't had a real job because after I graduated college, I found myself in a very precarious situation. I would go into details, but that would be crass of me on an interview, and we just met. As to whether you can trust me, I'd rather show you than tell you, but I don't steal, or I wouldn't need this job. And if you're afraid I'll spill some sensitive information, just threaten me with a pink slip, because I really do need this job if I want to do fun things like eat and have light in my apartment. Oh, and by the way, 2 + 2 is 4. Somewhere in the middle of her speech, she had caught the attention of Alex Carter, who was now leaning back in his leather chair, fingers steepled together as he mulled over what she said. He tapped his perfectly manicured nails against his desk before speaking. I like your attitude. Fine. I'll give you a shot. Your first assignment will be to travel to Bayless. Have you ever been there? Abby had never heard of Bayless, much less visited. No, sir. I just bought a cabin out there. It hasn't been used in years, almost decades. I want you to personally clean it out. Make it livable for me by the time I get there. Understood? Abby bit the inside of her mouth. He wants me to be a maid? As if reading her thoughts, Alex flashed a crocodile smile. Will this be a problem? She loosened her teeth from the inside of her cheek, tasting blood. Not at all. Good. Also, I have a few rules that I'll hold you to. 1. Don't ask too many questions. If you don't know how to do something, figure it out. 2. I don't like to hear excuses. If you can't follow these conditions, I'll be more than happy to fire you faster than you can beg to stay. Are we clear? Yes, sir. Is that all? Abby asked. Yes. Go ask Felicia to take you to payroll. She'll also give you the details for the Bayless assignment. Abby stood up, her legs feeling rubbery but ready to walk out the door when he stopped her with a third condition. My final warning. This isn't 50 Shades of Grey, so don't get any ideas about me falling in love with you, Abby Redding. Was he joking? Did he watch 50 Shades of Grey? He didn't seem the type. Her expression must have given her away because Alex cleared his throat and straightened his suit jacket before explaining. My mother made me watch it. Abby nodded, thinking her boss was definitely unusual. She stepped out of the office to find Felicia and get set up with payroll. As her heels sunk into the plush carpet, Abby touched another bead of her bracelet. My life is about to change.
Chapter 3. For Abby, routine had become something she relied on. Every Wednesday night, she would attend group therapy sessions at the local community center. The free pamphlets given out to first-time attendees referred to it as the Abuse Victim Awareness Group. Abby looked at the other members, each in various stages of therapy. Collectively, they were like a giant discolored bruise, blotchy from healing at different rates of speed. She was sitting next to a tall redhead named Rose. "You look good today, Abby," Rose said, gesturing towards Abby's outfit. Abby self-consciously patted down her black suit. "Thank you. I had a job interview today." Abby couldn't help but remember feeling so inadequate when she had compared herself to Felicia, Alex Carter's secretary. To the women in this group, her plain black dress suit and cheap shoes were fancy. "A job interview?" Rose grinned. "That's good since you're so smart. More so than the rest of us anyway. I'm real proud of you, Abby." A small smile tugged at Abby's lips. "Thanks, Rose." "Okay, ladies and gentlemen." Jason, the group's leader and therapist, clapped his hands together, which meant it was time for the meeting to begin. "Just a reminder, everything we share in the group is confidential. This is a safe circle. Does anyone have any news to share?" Nervous glances quietly darted around the room. When no one spoke up, Rose winked at Abby and said loudly, "Abby had a job interview today." Polite murmurs of congratulations floated towards Abby, who slightly ducked her head. "Yeah, I actually got the job." Jason quieted everyone and smiled. "That's great news, Abby. How does it feel to have a new job?" How does it feel? If I'm being honest, I really needed this job. After I graduated college, I always imagined having a career, but then Bryce happened. Abby's fingers twisted amongst one another as she spoke. It was something that always happened when she spoke of Bryce. He was so adamant about me not having to work. At first, I thought I was lucky to have a boyfriend who'd take care of me. I didn't even realize I had come to depend on him so much, until it was too late. "Having a job now must feel pretty empowering," Jason noted. An internal glow warmed her. "It does." "You're brave, Abby," Luis, a man in his 20s, whispered. "I'd be too afraid my boyfriend would make a scene at my place of work. When I worked at McDonald's, my boyfriend used to come in pretending to be an irate customer. After he got his food, he'd yell at the manager to fire me for getting his order wrong. After we broke up, he continued to bother me at work until I started working from home, A few empathetic comments were tossed at Luis, who held them close to his heart. "I'm not afraid of that happening," Abby answered. "Bryce, he never went to my jobs, and I'm sure he won't bother me again." Jason cleared his throat loudly. "Well, congratulations again. Remember, everyone, it is possible to make it on your own. It may not be easy, but it is possible." Last week we talked about finding courage in odd places. This week I want to continue that topic. Is everyone still wearing their blessings bracelet? Members raised their wrists to reveal the beaded bracelets Jason had handed out the week prior. Very good. I hope everyone is remembering to count their blessings throughout the day. This is the best way to remember that you deserve a safe and sound relationship, that you deserve positivity and kindness in your life. Abby tapped a bead on her bracelet. "I have a new job." As Jason's words faded into the background, Abby thought of her ex-boyfriend Bryce. In a matter of months, her relationship with him had consumed her to the point that nothing and no one else mattered. Whatever Bryce said was golden. Fool's gold. If she wasn't careful, memories of Bryce would creep up on her like tiny ant bites eating away at her soul. "I'm strong. I'm strong. I'm strong." She repeated the mantra in her head while her hand wrapped itself around the smooth beads encircling her wrist. She imagined herself becoming even stronger in the upcoming weeks. She needed to be stronger. Craved it. It was the only way she would completely forget about Bryce and the memories that haunted her. A week later, tiny droplets of rain splattered against the windows of the rental car Abby was driving. She flipped on the wipers as she juggled the crinkled map she had purchased 2 hours ago. "Lord, please help me get there safely," she whispered as she made a right turn on an unmarked road. A rusted green and white sign answered her prayers. "Welcome to Bayless Population 372. A few minutes later, Abby pulled up to Caldwell's grocery and supply store. Before she could exit her vehicle, a lanky young man, in his late 20s, if Abby had to take a guess, eating sunflower seeds came towards her. He was dressed in red and black plaid, and for some reason, he reminded her of a young Norman Bates from Psycho. "Howdy, ma'am. Are you lost?" He didn't wait for Abby to respond. "If you're lost, I can try and help you with directions. Most people from the city end up here by mistake. I'm Wally, by the way." "Well, my name is Walter, but people call me Wally. You can call me Wally too if you like," the man continued, offering Abby a friendly smile, which she couldn't help but mirror back. She tapped a bead on her bracelet. "I meet friendly people." "Nice to meet you, Wally. I'm Abby Redding. I'm here to air out the old Caldwell cabin. My boss, Alex Carter, sent me." "Did you say Carter?" a gravelly voice called out. Abby looked past Wally as a grisly-looking man in a wheelchair came out from the store as well. His graying hair was matted to one side, and his beard was dark and bristly to match its owner's personality. He shook his head and spit, just missing the wooden porch beneath him. Abby took a step back, nervously biting her bottom lip. Yes. Mr. Carter sent me here to air it out a bit. His secretary told me I could purchase anything I needed from this supply store. I have a list." Abby held up the list she had painstakingly made after talking with Felicia about the condition the cabin was currently in. "Yeah, I was told anything you needed would be charged to his account," the bear-like man muttered. "I'm Zachary Caldwell. I own this shop." "Nice to meet you, Mr. Caldwell. If you want, I can get all of your items for you while you wait out here, Ms. Redding," Wally offered. She handed him the list. "That would be incredibly helpful. Thank you, and please, just call me Abby." Wally shoved his sunflower seeds in his shirt pocket and winked. "I'll be back in a jiffy, Ms. Abby." "I'm surprised Carter isn't here. I thought he was anxious to visit the cabin." Zachary scratched his scalp, making Abby cringe. She wished she had gone inside with Wally. It was uncomfortable to be the object of Zachary Caldwell's unwavering gaze. "You going to that cabin alone?" Zachary asked. "Yes, sir. Mr. Carter will be here in a few days." "All by yourself?" Abby bit her lip again. Why did he care so much? Before she could answer, a sheriff's car drove up beside her, the tires crinkling against the gravel that acted as the store's parking lot. She felt her body relax as someone from the sheriff's department exited his patrol car and stood next to her. He looked at her rental and then at Abby, his eyebrows drawn together. You lost? This town must not get a lot of visitors. Abby gave a nervous laugh. I'm here to air out the old Caldwell cabin. Caldwell cabin? Shouldn't it be the Carter cabin now? I'm Don Caldwell, by the way. In case you couldn't tell, he's the sheriff around here, Zachary said. And my brother. Well, the family has to have one law-abiding citizen, Don teased. He turned to Abby. So you're here for the cabin, huh? It used to belong to our family, but no one's lived there for years. Are you going out there alone? Why is everyone asking me this? Yes, sir. I heard Bayless was pretty safe. Should I be worried about being alone? Abby asked. A look passed between both brothers that made the hair on the back of Abby's neck stand up. Not at all. It's just that it looks like a storm's brewing, and the roads flood easily here in Bayless. Plus, there's not much cell phone reception out there. I don't want you to be defenseless against the elements. Images of her ex-boyfriend, Bryce, flashed in her mind. She gripped the wrist that held her bracelet before saying, I think I can manage getting through a storm. Ms. Abby, I got your list together, Wally shouted from the doorway. I went ahead and put the balance on Mr. Carter's account. I also tossed in some more grocery items just in case you need them. The storms out here can be unpredictable. Abby shook herself free from the painful memories and gave a crooked smile to Wally. Thank you, Wally. It's much appreciated. Sheriff Don took the box and bottled waters from Wally and put them in Abby's car. He pulled a card from his pocket and in a low voice told Abby, If you need anything, be sure to call me. Reception is spotty out there, but if you move around a bit, you'll eventually get a signal. Abby took the business card and nodded. Yes, Sheriff. I'll be sure to call you if I need you. Thank you. As she drove away, she couldn't help but shudder at the three men that stared at her from her rearview mirror. Caldwell Cabin, now known as Carter Cabin, was a beautiful two-story cabin surrounded by oak trees. She could hear the sound of a river nearby and the faint sounds of barking dogs. She knew the cabin was secluded, so she wondered if residents still took their pets out here for exercise.
The darkening sky motivated Abby to hurry her entrance into the cabin. Inside, the room was filled with dust and furniture covered in white blankets. A musty scent tickled her nose, causing her to cough. She flipped on all of the lights and opened a window. It would be dark soon, and the heavy clouds outside looked ready to weep. Another quick glance around showed that the house had been abandoned by its previous owners. Family photos still sat on the mantel of the fireplace. Why would someone leave their personal photos behind? It was a question that remained unanswered as she put away her groceries. Abby was making her way upstairs when she heard a child's laughter. She stilled. Is anyone here? Abby knew it was stupid to ask because if someone really was hiding in the cabin, it's not like they'd shout, Here I am. Maybe I'm just tired from the trip, she told herself as she continued upstairs. She made her way upstairs and noticed that all of the rooms had cardboard boxes stuffed with personal items. Abby flipped the light on in the last room and grinned. It must have been a little girl's room. Pink paint covered the walls. She rummaged through the box in the corner of the room, pulling out a rag doll, some storybooks, and a sad-looking music box with a frowning prince and princess. This looks depressing, Abby muttered as she opened the box and wound it up. The tune that played was an old song that reminded her of Bryce. It was a song called Killing Me Softly. He used to play it for her after they fought. She shut the box and set it aside. She didn't want to think of her past. Her relationship with Bryce was over. He couldn't hurt her anymore. She placed the music box on top of a sheet-covered desk and made her way towards the door when the soft melody of Killing Me Softly began to play again. Abby turned around and stared at the music box. It was closed. Goosebumps rose on her bare arms. Am I hearing things? A sizzling sound grabbed her attention, and Abby looked out the nearby window to realize it had started pouring outside. She ran downstairs to close the window she had opened earlier. She stared out at the dancing trees that moved in rhythm with the howling wind, and wondered how her life would be different if she hadn't met Bryce. Only the phone's ringing was able to break her reverie. She picked up the receiver. Carter Residence. This is Abby speaking. A rustling noise in the background was all she could hear. "Hello? Hello, is anyone there? You're breaking up on your end?" She thought she heard someone breathing on the other line and rolled her eyes. "I'm sorry, but I'm hanging up. Get your kicks calling someone else." She hung up the phone and walked over to where her purse was at. She wanted to see if her cell phone worked. The landline rang again. She once again picked up the receiver. "Hello? Carter residence? This is Abby speaking." Again, it sounded like someone breathing heavily into the phone. "Speak now or forever hold your peace. I'm about to hang up the phone again." A crackling sound from outside caused her to jump, and she hung up the phone before grabbing her cell. She was holding it up to see if she could catch a signal when the phone rang for the third time. "Hello?" Again she heard heavy breathing, which angered her. "If you don't stop, I'm going to call the police." She was about to hang up the phone when the haunting melody of the music box began to play over the phone. "Killing me softly." Abby's breath caught in her throat. She asked in a strangled whisper, "Bryce?" Abby let the receiver fall from her hands and took a step back. What was happening? She ran to her purse to pull out Sheriff Don's business card when she heard 3 strong bangs against the front door. Chapter 4. A prick of fear paralyzed Abby. She stood in silence as the rain continued to beat on the cabin from outside. Am I imagining things? 3 loud bangs against the door told Abby she wasn't. Her voice seemed to be hiding as she tried to ask who was outside. If someone had heard her over the rain, they weren't answering. There was no peephole on the door. Why was there no peephole? Abby grabbed the fire poker from the fireplace and inched her way closer to the door. Her free hand wrapped itself around her bracelet. "I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid." The knob to the door opened with a squeak, and Abby screeched, lifting up the poker. A shrill scream drowned her out as the man at the door raised his arms over his head, his yellow slicker and hat wet from the rain. "Don't kill me!" the man shouted. Abby's arm froze in the air. "Wally! Please don't hit me, Abby. Zachary sent me out here," Wally explained. "I tried knocking, but you didn't answer and the door was unlocked." "You scared the heck out of me." Abby tossed the poker near the fireplace and groaned. "I thought you were some kind of killer." "Me?" Wally stomped his feet on the thick doormat outside, trying to shake the rainwater away. "I only came to bring you a generator in case the electricity goes out," Zachary insisted. Still taken aback, Abby nodded. "I'm sorry for almost bludgeoning you with a fire poker. Thank you for bringing it out here. That's really nice of you. And him for suggesting it." "Not really. He charged it to Mr. Carter's account. He wanted to add on a ton of other things, but I told him I had to leave before the storm got worse." "Well, it was still thoughtful of him." Abby stepped aside as Wally made his way inside, droplets of water marking his path. "I can show you how to use it," Wally offered. 20 minutes and a cup of hot tea later, Abby felt a bit more relaxed. "You're a brave woman to be out here by yourself," Wally said between sips of his tea. "Brave? How so?" "Not many people would want to spend the night here after what?" His eyes widened and he cleared his throat. "I should get going before this storm gets worse." "What were you going to say, Wally? Not after what?" Abby's inquisitive gaze bore into him. He played with the collar of his plaid shirt. "Nothing really. Just an old wives' tale about the cabin being spooky is all." He was lying. "Now that you mention it." Abby crossed her arms as a chill ran through her. "I could have sworn I heard someone laughing earlier." "Laughing?" Abby watched his Adam's apple bob up and down in fear. "Yeah, like a little girl's laughter. I thought kids were hiding out here or something." She watched Wally puff up his chest. "If you like, I can take a look around." Abby doubted anyone would be intimidated by the Jack Skellington-like figure of Wally, but she nodded. "I would appreciate it." He pushed his shoulders back as he reached the staircase. "Don't worry, I'll be right back." A crack of thunder caused him to jump, and Abby stifled a laugh. He rolled his shoulders back once more. "I'll be right back, Abby." She watched him head up the stairs, and when he was out of sight, she pulled out her cell phone. She had a missed text message. It was from Felicia, Alex Carter's secretary. "Mr. Carter will be arriving in 2 days." 2 days? That's not enough time. Abby sighed, imagining herself staying up all night cleaning. "No one else is up here, Abby. I checked every nook and cranny." "Is everything okay?" Wally asked. "Yeah, and thank you, Wally. My boss will be here in 2 days, so I have to work like Speedy Gonzales to get things done around here. If you need any help, let me know. Also, if the roads don't get flooded, Chuck should be back in town to install your landline." To install the landline? Abby didn't understand. "I think he already did. The phone was ringing earlier." Wally's brows furled in confusion. "Are you sure? He's the only one who does the installations in Bayless, and he's been out of town for over a week." "Someone called me 3 times tonight," Abby confirmed. Wally peered over at the phone and back at Abby. "Are you sure it wasn't your cell phone you heard?" "I'm pretty sure. It was some creep who wanted to let me hear his heavy breathing." Abby made her way to the phone and lifted the receiver. There was no dial tone. "This is impossible. It rang. I swear it really did." She resented the sympathetic look Wally gave her. He patted her shoulder. "It's probably stressful for you being out here alone. Sometimes we hear things that aren't there or we get confused. It happens to me quite a bit." Abby could feel a tightness in her chest. "You're probably right," Abby whispered. The words felt wrong, but she didn't want to seem like a crazy person. Not again. "Anyway, thanks for looking around. I appreciate it." "Not a problem. Good night, Abby," Wally said as he slipped his rain gear back on. She watched him vanish into the darkness, the disappearing headlights of his car, the only sign he was truly gone. Abby closed the front door and rubbed her hands together. If Alex Carter, egotist debonair, was coming in 2 days, she wanted to be ready. She grabbed a bag of cleaning supplies and made her way to the master bedroom. "At least you have a job," she reminded herself. She was about to pull out some Lysol wipes when she heard a tinkling of laughter again. She stood up, afraid to look around. Dang Wally. He must not have looked around properly. "Hello? Is anyone there?" Abby called out. It sounded like a small child's laughter, so surely she shouldn't be afraid, right? The laughter became louder. She listened intently to hear where it was coming from. "I can hear you laughing. Do your parents know you're here? I'm pretty sure it's illegal to hang out in property that isn't yours." Oh Lord, I hope her parents aren't hiding here too. "Come out so I can see you," Abby said loudly, following the laughter and finding herself in the pink room. It was dark. She switched on a small lamp. Its soft light caused her shadow to grow tall against the wall to her right. The continuous laughter sounded like it was coming from the closet. There was no way she was imagining things. Abby licked her lips. "Come out now, and you won't be in trouble." It was silent except for the steady splattering of rain from outside. "It's not funny anymore, is it? Not when you've been caught?" Abby looked to her right and froze. She could see her shadow stretched out against the wall. Behind her was a second shadow. She couldn't be certain, but it looked like the outline of a man, and his hand was reaching towards her. Chapter 5. Abby spun around, fists up, ready to defend herself from whoever or whatever was behind her. Instead of an intruder, all she saw was the pale pink wallpaper that encased the room. Outside, the rain continued its steady downpour. She could hear the rain beating against the roof. Abby's dark eyes flitted back to her lone shadow against the soft glow of the lamp. She massaged her temples, trying her best to rationalize what she thought she had seen. "It's late. I'm tired. This cabin is creepy. It was probably a piece of furniture. I'm imagining things." Remembering what brought her to the pink room in the first place, Abby inched towards the closet. "Are you in there?" she asked aloud. There was still no response, but she didn't expect one. She quickly pulled the door open and saw nothing. It was empty. Abby stood still, trying to hear any other unusual sounds that would indicate whether she was alone or not. After a while, she gave up, thinking that perhaps the laughter was also something she imagined. She decided to sleep in the master bedroom. Still feeling a little uncomfortable, she left the light in the hallway on. The thrum of the rain hitting the roof lulled her to sleep. The next morning, Abby was woken by the sound of someone screaming her name. She stumbled out of bed and crawled to the window. "Hi, Abby!" Wally was outside, waving his arms in the air. Standing next to him were 3 women and a man she didn't recognize. "I'll be right there," Abby called out before rushing to put on some appropriate attire. A few minutes later, she was introduced to Chuck, the man who would install her telephone line. The 3 women were volunteers that offered to help clean the cabin. "I'm Maria, that's Joni, and she's Yvonne," a stout, middle-aged woman said. "We're here to help you get this cabin in tip-top shape." "I'm Abby. It's nice to meet all of you. I'm so glad you're here. I honestly wasn't sure if I'd be able to get this cabin in order before Mr. Carter arrived. When Wally told us you only had 2 days to get this cabin in livable condition, we just had to help," Maria said, as she wrapped an arm around an uncomfortable Abby. "Speaking of Mr. Carter, we were all surprised that he wanted to buy this cabin in the first place." The other 2 women nodded, which prompted Abby to ask, "Why is that?" Maria looked around her before leaning in and whispering, "You didn't hear it from us, but someone was murdered here." Abby felt a slight chill course through her body. "Murdered?" "That's right. Murdered. It happened over 20 years ago, but some of us still remember it," Joni whispered. "This is such a small town," Abby said. "I wonder if Mr. Carter knows. My mama said it was a big secret back then. I was only 10 at the time. They tried to keep it hushed up." "Why would they do that?" Yvonne shrugged. "Don't you ever watch soap operas? This may be a small town, but there's always one family that's more powerful than the others. I would assume they didn't want the news getting out. It was a big scandal back in the—" "Yvonne, what nonsense are you sputtering to a stranger?" Chuck growled. All 3 women jumped. Maria stepped forward from the trio and pushed her shoulders back. "Chuck, Abby has a right to know about her cabin." "It's not her cabin. It's Alex Carter's, and he knows all about what happened here," Chuck muttered. "What was that?" Abby asked. "He knows about the murder?" Chuck sighed in frustration. "Yeah, he should, with all the snooping he did around town before buying the place." "I told you before, and I'll say it again, Chuck. That handsome man wasn't snooping. He was just getting to know his future neighbors," Maria corrected him. Chuck harumphed. "What future neighbors? That man isn't going to leave the city for us bumpkins in Bayless." "Speak for yourself. I'm no bumpkin," Maria said, tossed her dark hair behind her shoulder. "I'm a sophisticated lady. I won the Ms. Bayless beauty pageant all my years of high school." Joni frowned. "We never had a beauty pageant." "Well, I would have won if we had one," Maria snapped. "Do you even know what sophisticated means, Maria?" Chuck asked. "Never mind. I'm just saying that it's odd for a man like him to come here." "It's suspicious if you ask me," Chuck said as he tested the receiver of the phone. "No one did ask you," Yvonne sneered, rolling her eyes. The other women nodded. "In fact, I'll have you know that my mama told me the Carter—" "Enough!" Chuck slammed the phone down. "I wouldn't have brought you 3 here if you were just going to gossip. I thought you wanted to help Abby clean." The 3 women muttered something Abby couldn't hear and began grabbing cleaning supplies. Chuck had the grace to look chagrined after the women left the room. "Sorry about that. Those 3 are notorious gossips. I wouldn't listen to too much of what they say. They've been that way since they were little girls, and somehow I married the ringleader. They're harmless if you take everything they say with a grain of salt." "No worries. I appreciate their help." Changing the subject, Abby looked around. "Where's Wally?" "I think he went outside to the shed," Chuck answered. "Since the roads didn't flood, delivery men should be coming to deliver some new furniture and appliances. Mr. Carter's secretary was specific about wanting the old furniture stored in the shed in the backyard. Wally said he'd make sure it was cleared out to store the old stuff. Abby listened to Chuck explain the ins and outs of having a landline before accepting a sheet of paper that was to be Mr. Carter's contract with the new phone number. After he had finished, he said he would join Wally outside. Abby went upstairs to help the three women. Each woman had claimed an area of the house to clean. Abby was given the pink room. She glanced at the box of toys and pulled out a rag doll with bright red hair. It had clearly been dragged around by its arm, which showed some frayed threading. She grinned, thinking of her own childhood doll, and placed it on top of the box. She was about to sweep the floor when she heard someone laughing. "Not again," Abby groaned. She left the room to find Maria scrubbing the tub in the master bathroom. "Hi, Maria. This is going to sound strange, but while you've been here, have you heard someone laughing?" Abby asked. Maria looked up, eyebrows knitted together. "Laughing?" "Yeah, like a little girl's laughter." Maria shook her head. "No, I haven't heard anything. This is an old cabin, though, and it's in the woods, so you could be hearing some weird bird call or something." "A bird? Or something?" Maria grinned. "Why do you ask?" Abby lightly touched a bead of her bracelet. "I'm not crazy." "No reason." Abby smiled before walking back to the pink room. She began sweeping and swung the closet door open to clean inside there as well when she saw it. On its back in the corner of the closet was the rag doll with red hair. Its arms were draped over its face, as though it were covering its eyes. Abby shuddered and took a step back. "Abby?" Abby jumped at hearing her name and turned to see Maria giving her a quizzical look. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. Are you okay?" Abby licked her lips. "Yeah, sorry. I guess this old cabin has been making me a little jumpy." She picked up the rag doll, not understanding how it ended up in the closet. "Oh my, I haven't seen that in almost 25 years, Maria exclaimed. Abby held up the doll. "You recognize this?" "Of course. How could I forget? The little girl who owned it carried it around so much that we almost thought it was a third arm. I was still young myself, but that little girl was just too adorable." "You know who owned this doll?" Abby asked. "Of course. It's been years, but I haven't forgotten. It belonged to Sheriff Don's daughter."
Chapter 6. Sheriff Don's daughter? Abby repeated. Maria nodded. Over 25 years at least. It kind of gives me goosebumps knowing that I'm standing in the home that sweet little girl was murdered in. "Who would do such a thing?" Abby asked. "That's just it. Maria, time to go," Chuck said before looking at Abby. "Wally's staying behind to help with the furniture people." "Chuck, why are you always so rude?" Maria chastised. He turned to Abby. "Sorry, but we've got to get back into town." Joni and Yvonne were standing behind him. "Of course. Thank you all so much for your help. I wouldn't have been able to get everything done without you all." Abby hugged Maria and smiled at Chuck, who was already making his way downstairs. "Don't mind him. He didn't even want to come out here. I bet he's spooked about all the rumors that go on about this place," Maria confided in a low voice. "Rumors?" Chuck's voice called out for Maria again, and she sighed before waving at Abby and trudging down the wooden steps that led to the first floor of the cabin. Joni and Yvonne were right behind her. Abby wished she would have been able to get more information out of the gossiping women. It might have shed some light on the strange things that had been happening at the cabin. She touched her bracelet. "I can leave this creepy place soon as Mr. Carter arrives." After everyone had left, Abby found herself alone with Wally, who was in the storage shed, making sure everything would fit. He turned to Abby and smiled. "Hi, Abby. I think if we angle everything just right, we should be able to get the items Mr. Carter wanted to be saved in here. The rest will go to the dump or charity." "He told you what he wanted to be saved?" Abby asked, a little confused as to why he didn't give her the list. She was his assistant, not Wally. Wally passed her a clipboard with a spreadsheet of the items Mr. Carter wanted to be saved. It was very specific, which was unusual. Why would Alex Carter want to save the belongings of the cabin? "Wow," Abby said as she handed the list back. "It seems as though he already made an inventory of everything." "Yes." He had been out here for a while before he actually purchased the cabin. No one else had ever offered to buy this place before, so we were all surprised when we heard Sheriff Don sold it, Wally admitted. So this cabin was Sheriff Don's? Abby asked, hoping Wally would elaborate. She wasn't disappointed. It was. I figured he wanted to save the sheriff's belongings in case he wanted them. It'd be a shame to toss him out. That's surprising, Abby noted. Mr. Carter didn't seem like the empathetic type when I met him. I guess that just goes to show you can't judge a person based on 1 or 2 times after meeting them. Wally chuckled. Mr. Carter seems to be a bit cold, but I think maybe he's just a little lonely. You think he's lonely? Abby asked. Wally's smile faltered before he turned away. Aren't we all? Anyway, I just meant it take a while to get to know someone properly. Abby thought of her previous boyfriend, Bryce. He had been all smiles and sweetness when she first met him. It wasn't until after she had fallen in love with him that his abusive side was revealed. Wally was staring at her as if waiting for a response, so she smiled and said, You're right about that, Wally. Well, after hearing Sheriff Don's story, it's hard not to understand why he'd want to get rid of the place, and it's pretty nice of Mr. Carter to store these things in case Sheriff Don ever wants them. Abby could help but ask, What exactly happened? Wally shut the door to the large shed. I don't know everything, but it was raining. The roads around here tend to get flooded. If they're not flooded, they get slick with rain, and it's easy to lose control of your car. The sheriff had been working late that night on account of some teens that thought it would be funny to try and have a party with beer involved. Well, long story short, he ended up hauling a ton of them to the station and was going to work late. He couldn't get through to his wife by phone, so he asked his brother Zachary to let her know he'd be home late. On his way to see Don's wife, Zachary's truck ended up swerving off the road and into a tree. Abby didn't realize her mouth was agape. Oh no! That's not the worst of it. Mrs. Caldwell and Crystal were here at the cabin, alone being visited by a madman, while Zachary was in an accident, fighting for his life, and Don was processing teens. It was a cursed night for Sheriff Don. Not a member of his family was safe. Not one. Who was the mad? Abby was cut off by the sound of a large truck filled with furniture pulling up to the driveway. Sorry, Abby. I need to make sure they know which items to take back with them to charity. It's a job Mr. Carter hired me to do, Wally explained. She wanted to ask more questions about the night of the storm. She wanted to know why Mr. Carter didn't have her organize the belongings in the cabin. She wondered if her position was created just to placate his mother, that he had hired a needy woman from Pathways. Well, he basically said that during the interview, didn't he? The thought didn't sit well with her, and she took a deep breath before following Wally into the cabin. She was going to try and be helpful in any way she could. It was almost nightfall when Wally was finally checking the last of the items in the shed before he warned Abby, Be careful not to come in here. It's like a row of dominoes. Move one item and the rest come tumbling down. You sure did pack a lot in such a small space, Wally. She walked him to his car. So about Sheriff Don's daughter. I'm sorry, Abby. I should never have mentioned it. Do you feel weird staying here by yourself now? Chuck told me to keep my mouth shut. I won't say another word, I promise. No, it's not that. No, this is all just gossip anyway. No one knows what really happened that night. I'll not say another word on it. Wally was getting into his car when he said, I swear it, not another word. Disappointment rumbled in her belly, and Abby thanked Wally before waving him off. She turned around to face the cabin and frowned. What secrets are you hiding? Instead of an answer, she only heard the rustling of the trees around her. She looked up at the lit windows and wondered whether Alex Carter really cared about the history of the cabin. She couldn't imagine why he would. Abby's stomach growled, motivating her to head inside and eat dinner. She was putting away her dishes when she heard it again. A child's laughter. I'm imagining things. Maria had told her perhaps it was a bird that she had mistaken for a child's laughter. Impossible. She was definitely hearing the laughter of a little girl. Crystal? Abby called out warily. She tapped a wooden bead on her bracelet. I'm brave. I'm not afraid to explore all possibilities. I'm not afraid of ghosts. I don't think I am anyway. The laughter became louder, drowning out any other thoughts. Abby decided to follow it. Crystal, is that you? Crystal Caldwell, are you here with me? Abby felt her legs traveling up the stairs to the pink room. She opened the door. Crystal, it's not nice to scare people. You know that, right? She hesitated before entering the room that was almost empty with the exception of the new bed that had been delivered. Abby looked at the white sheets on the bed and gasped. On the bed was the red-headed rag doll. Heck no, Abby muttered. She could have sworn the doll had been placed in the shed earlier that day. She slowly stepped closer to the bed, her hand outstretched. The laughter stopped, and Abby jumped when the door behind her slammed shut. The room was dark, except for the moonlight, which was peeking its way inside. Abby quickly grabbed the doll and ran out of the room. She went outside through the back door and made her way to the shed. She was ignoring everything around her. All she wanted to do was get rid of the doll. She tossed the doll inside, hoping never to see it again. The shed was precariously loaded, and Abby wanted to leave. She was about to bid a final farewell to the red-headed rag doll when she felt a hand touch her shoulder from behind. Abby jumped forward, a strangled cry escaping her throat. She bumped into a thin shelf that was holding some large picture frames and a statue of a blindfolded woman. She felt the hard rock of the statue hit her head before she fell to the ground, and everything went dark.
Chapter 7. Eggs aren't supposed to be this greasy. Damn it, didn't anyone ever teach you to cook? I can't eat this crap. Abby turned towards his voice just in time to see the uneaten plate of eggs come flying at her. She ducked and saw an angry Bryce scrounging through the fridge for something else. She picked up the discarded food from the floor, along with the pieces of glass that were once part of a dish set given to her by her now-deceased grandmother. A mental note to buy paper plates skirted through her mind as she watched Bryce, the man who claimed to love her, chewing on some leftover takeout. She hissed in pain as a shard of glass pricked her hand, a tiny drop of blood escaping. "Don't look at me like that," Bryce growled. "It's your fault. You know how I get when I'm hungry. Next time you should cook something I can actually eat." A splinter of glass embedded itself in Abby's finger. She watched a thick drop of blood ooze out of her broken skin. "Are you bleeding?" a now worried Bryce asked, coming towards her. "I'm sorry, babe. This is my fault. You know I never want to see you hurt, right? You're the most important thing in the world to me." "The most important thing?" Abby bit back her remark about being a person, not a thing. She didn't want to start another argument so early in the morning. Abby felt his strong arms envelop her as he walked her towards the kitchen sink. Cool water ran over her finger as his lips pressed against her neck, a precursor to him marking her skin. "You need to take better care of yourself, babe. It was always like this. A beating before the healing, a cut before the care. It was a merry-go-round of emotions that stopped being fun long ago." Now the ride made Abby queasy. It had to stop. Abby groaned as memories of her and Bryce pressed against her mind. The last she remembered, she was being in the pink room. "Are you okay? How many fingers am I holding up?" Abby slowly opened her eyes to see 3 fingers wiggling in front of her face. "Where am I? What happened?" she asked, still not completely aware of her surroundings. The fingers were removed, and she felt something damp on her forehead. It was a compress. She slowly sat up and found herself staring into the very irritated eyes of her employer, Alex Carter. "Mr. Carter?" He let his hand fall to his side. "Well, you know who I am, so I guess having you count fingers is unnecessary." What are you doing here?" Abby asked. Remembering he owned the cabin, she corrected herself. "Sorry, I meant what are you doing here a day early? I thought you'd be coming later and—" "I changed my mind," he said, cutting her off. "I didn't expect to find you unconscious outside. Are you sure you're okay?" Unconscious? The image of the creepy rag doll popped in her head, followed by her going outside to the shed. Wally had warned her to be careful. She should have listened. "I must have bumped my head. Did you carry me inside?" Abby asked, feeling mortified. "I'm so sorry." Alex Carter simply leaned back, those light blue eyes assessing her as if he wasn't sure he could believe she truly was all right. I didn't mean to startle you back there. I can't believe you managed to knock yourself out. If this is some ploy on your part to get me to feel sorry for you, it won't work. Abby wasn't sure if he was joking or not. She cleared her throat. I'm sorry about what happened outside. It was my fault. She looked up to see Alex silently studying her, 2 fingers tapping his chin in thought. Is this a habit of yours, I wonder? A habit? Abby asked, not quite understanding. Did he mean her clumsiness? I'm sorry. I'll try to be more careful in the future. It's not like it was her fault he scared her and something hit her head. A corner of his mouth tugged up in derision. I'd appreciate that, but I meant you apologizing. It's a bit infuriating. You're making me feel as though I'm some sort of bully. Sorry, Forget it. I already know what you're going to say. You're sorry, right? Alex walked away with a wave of his hand, as if he were dismissing her from his thoughts. Abby felt her wrist for her blessings bracelet. I am patient. Mr. Carter, since you've arrived early, did you want me to leave first thing in the morning? Abby asked. A part of her wondered if he'd demand she leave that night. Leave? Alex parroted. Yes, Felicia said I should report back to the office once you arrived. Do you work for me or Felicia? You, Abby answered with trepidation. Right. You're my assistant, and I need you to assist me while I'm here. Oh, Abby frowned. I'm sorry. I thought you were here for pleasure. Would that make a difference? Abby watched him walk to the kitchen. He turned to her. Are you going to make dinner? I'm famished. First I'm his maid, and now he wants me to be his chef. Personal assistants sure do have a lot of duties. He smirked. Clearly, her look of shock was amusing to him. Ms. Redding, you do realize that as my assistant, you'll have various tasks that see to my comfort? Your job is to assist me with my daily needs. Felicia is assigned to the office as my secretary, but your tasks won't always deal with work-related matters. Then why did you have Wally organize the furniture? Abby blurted. She slapped her hands over her mouth. What if she upset him by questioning him? I assigned that job to him before I hired you. I didn't see any reason to have you deal with it if he was already going to take care of it. The folks here in Bayless are pretty friendly. I'm sure you learned that while you were here. How else would this cabin look so clean in such a short amount of time? So he knew Maria and her friends had helped her? Did he know about the murders? About Crystal? Yes, sir. By the way, did you know this cabin is somewhat infamous? Abby stood up on wobbly legs, ensuring her equilibrium was centered. I see you've been listening to the local gossip, Alex noted as he sat at the kitchen table. I heard, and it doesn't matter to me. I'm here to relax. This cabin has a history, but that doesn't concern me. List people, most places have a little history, wouldn't you agree? I suppose so, Abby nodded. It was obvious he didn't want to talk about Crystal Caldwell. I'm sorry, Mr. Carter. I understand if you don't want to talk about it. She heard him mutter something about women who constantly apologized before he turned to her and said, You'll be running errands for me and seeing to my meals while I'm here, is that clear? Yes, sir. Abby watched him pick up his luggage and walk upstairs. She wondered which room she would be sleeping in. The pink room? That must have been Crystal's room. She shuddered and lifted her hand to the bump on her head. What if she had a concussion? No. She knew what a concussion felt like. She'd be fine. Later that night, Abby found herself staring at the new bed that was in the pink room. She tapped her bracelet. I'm brave. I'm brave. I'm brave. It had been an eventful day. She had helped Wally with the furniture, and then she had fallen and knocked herself out. She remembered the dream she had about Bryce right before she woke up. Was it a dream or a memory? She decided not to think about it too much before drifting off into a fitful slumber. An hour later, Abby felt something wet against her neck. She tried to move her body away but couldn't. Something heavy was pushing her down. She gave a slight groan as the light pressure against her neck felt like something was gnawing at her. Sucking. She tried willing her eyes to open but couldn't. Strong hands were pressing into her skin. Open your eyes, Abby. Open your eyes. Her neck felt like it was on fire. Another groan escaped her now open mouth, and she felt her arms being pinned above her. She forced her eyes open to see a man above her. She screeched and quickly sat up, her heart racing, gasping for air. What's going on in here? Alex came running into her room, wearing a black tank and dark silk pajama pants. Abby looked around the empty room while she caught her breath. I'm so sorry. It was a nightmare. Are you asking me that? Alex asked. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to wake you. You screamed because of a nightmare? Alex asked. Abby noticed he was tapping his chin again. Finally, he nodded. I understand you have a difficult history, but being my assistant means I need someone who I can rely on. Someone who won't wake me up in the middle of the night. I'll let it slide tonight since you hit your head earlier. Don't wake me again. Abby's fists tightened around the blanket that covered her. Her voice was gravelly as she answered, Yes, sir. Alex shot her one last annoyed look before leaving her alone. Slowly, Abby switched on the light and padded to the mirror in the corner of the room. No one had been there. It had to have been a dream. A very bad dream. Abby stretched her head to one side and gasped. On her neck, at the exact same spot she felt someone gnawing at her in her dream, was a sight she was all too familiar with. Her skin was discolored with the beginning of a breeze. Chapter 8. Abby's fingers grazed over the discolored skin. Impossible, she whispered. It was a dream. No, a nightmare. There's no way. No, it's impossible. Memories gushed forward of Bryce, being a bit too rough in his lovemaking. He used to purposely leave a hickey when he knew she had an upcoming job interview. It was yet another way to control her. No, Bryce, I told you I have a job interview tomorrow. For what? I can support you. Are you trying to leave me? What? Did you stop loving me all of a sudden? Of course not. I just want to have a job. To earn my own money, she'd argue. Don't you trust me to support you? That's not what this is about, Bryce. It's not? Then explain to me what this is about. Why do you all of a sudden feel the need to get a job? It's not all of a sudden. I have a degree. I want to use it. Yeah, right. Tell me the truth, Abby. Do you want to meet other men? Is that it? Leave me for another man? You think I'll let you go? Baby, I'll follow you to the ends of the earth if you ever left me. I'd be your shadow. You wouldn't be able to take a dump without me knowing about it. That's disgusting, Bryce. No. That's what's going to happen if you ever try to leave me. You're mine, Abby. Abby shook the past from her head and clutched her beaded bracelet. She took several deep breaths. Stop it. He can't hurt you anymore. No one can hurt you. No one. There was no way Bryce would be able to get to her. None. There was no one else in this cabin except her and her new boss, Alex Carter. She would never have imagined him as the type to secretly try and attack her in her sleep, but Abby knew firsthand that disturbed people came in all shapes and sizes. Anger bubbled deep in her belly as she thought of Alex Carter pretending to be concerned after she had woken from her nightmare. Had he just been afraid of being caught? Pervert, Abby hissed. She pulled on her robe and made her way to his bedroom, her footsteps sounding like angry beats on a drum. Her fury was the melody pushing her forward. She didn't bother with knocking. She didn't feel the need, as Abby assumed he had already tasted her against her will. As far as she was concerned, he was guilty, and her anger already convicted him. Her unexpected entry caught him off guard, and he mumbled something before recovering and remembering where he was at. Miss Redding, What exactly do you think you're doing? A moment of panic welled up in her. What if I'm wrong and he's not a pervert? Abby squashed down the doubt as she reminded herself that it was just the two of them in the cabin. Her index finger pointed towards him in accusation. What am I doing here? What were you doing in my room? His brows narrowed together. Are you sleepwalking right now? He looked down and mumbled. Damn it all to hell. I knew I shouldn't have hired someone from Pathways. You monster! Abby screeched. Alex Carter mirrored a finger back at Abby and shouted, I don't care if you're sleepwalking. I demand you wake up and get out of my room this instant. I'm not sleepwalking. I'm here because you just came into my room without my permission. Abby attempted to take an intimidating step forward when she realized it was just her and Alex Carter in a room and she had no weapon to protect herself. Of course I was just in your room. You were screaming like a madwoman. Was I supposed to ignore you? Alex sighed in frustration and muttered something about never hiring a charity case again. What did you call me, a charity case? Abby growled. Is that why you think you can take advantage of me? Because no one will believe me against the super powerful businessman, Alex Carter. Alex was slowly massaging his temples. This isn't happening right now. This isn't happening. I'm not some woman who cried wolf the first time. What did you think would happen if you came onto me in my sleep? That I'd think it was a dream, that I'd forget about it, that I'd overlook it and be grateful because someone finally gave me a job? I'll have you know that I worked hard for my degree. Get out, Alex repeated softly. No, not until you admit what you did was wrong and apologize. You're right. Alex slowly turned his head towards Abby, his mouth a grim line. I was wrong. I was wrong to hire you, a total psychopath. Believe me when I say that I am deeply regretful of my decision. Abby could feel her mouth hanging open in shock. What did you say? Do you have hearing problems in addition to mental problems? Alex asked before removing himself from his bed. I hired you as a personal assistant, nothing more, nothing less. Yet, here you are storming into my room in the middle of the night to accuse me of… What was it again? Attacking you in your sleep. Alex actually had the gall to laugh. Do you even know who I am? Why would I need to attack you? Ah, but you think I'm some sort of pervert, don't you? His laughter mocked her. Do you do this to all your bosses, or am I the lucky one? It's not funny. Abby could feel tears threatening to escape. Oh, but it is. At least to me. Why in the world would someone like me want someone like you as a bed partner? Alex took a step forward, causing Abby to take a step back. What's that supposed to mean? Someone like me? Exactly what you think it means. I only hired you as a favor to my mother and her philanthropic ways, but this is asking too much of me. I'm a businessman, not a psychiatrist. I can't help you with whatever crazy episode you're going through right now. First thing in the morning, I expect you to pack your bags and get out of my sight. Consider yourself fired. Abby felt her nails drawing blood from the palms of her hands. She should have known better than to expect an apology. She was doubting herself as it was, but logically, it was only the two of them in the cabin. Who else could have attacked her? Fired? Do you actually think I'd want to work with someone like you? I know all about you. You're garbage. Abby felt Alex's attack before she saw it coming. She was pushed up against the wall. Don't you ever call me that again, do you understand? Abby struggled out of his grip. He wasn't really hurting her, but it was uncomfortable. Let me go. Let me say this one more time. I didn't go into your room to attack you. The only time I stepped inside your room was to check on you because you were screaming bloody murder. If I could have ignored it, I would have. If you didn't attack me, then how did I get the hickey on my neck? Abby muttered. I don't know. Maybe you gave it to yourself. She gasped in anger. Why would I? I don't know. Did you plan this? Did you pinch your neck or something until it looks like you'll have a hickey and then barge in here thinking I'd pay you to keep your mouth shut? Alex loosened his hold and stepped back. I have more money and more lawyers at my disposal than you can imagine. You really are crazy if you think you could get one over on me. Stop calling me that. Why not? It's the truth, isn't it? Alex leaned forward and smirked. You've even been to the loony bin, haven't you? Abby wanted to crawl into the wall her back was pressed against. All of the anger and bravery she had while storming into Alex Carter's room had quickly dissipated into a cloud of shame and surprise. Abby frowned. "What did you say?" "Oh, come on. You didn't think I'd hire someone as my personal assistant without knowing every single detail about them, did you?" Then, you know, about Bryce Cruz? Your ex-boyfriend?" "Oh, I know all about him. I know every one of your secrets, Abby Redding." "Then you know." Alex leaned forward, his hand against the wall above her shoulder. "How you killed him. I know all about that too." Chapter 9. There's a reason secrets are supposed to stay hidden. Alex Carter knew that the moment he revealed Abby Redding's. Her face paled and he swore she would have fallen if her back wasn't already pressed against the wall. He slowly took a step back and stared at the woman he had hired as his personal assistant. The woman he was forced to hire. She was a puzzle to him, and he hated puzzles. He knew she had murdered Bryce Cruz. It was in the report he received from his company's security team. Still, there was something about her that made him believe the report was wrong. She claimed self-defense. He supposed it was true since the grand jury didn't find it worthy enough to take to court. Open and shut was the death of Bryce Cruz, a divorce attorney known for helping his male clients leave their wives and children without a dime to their name. Initially, he was adamantly against using Pathways to hire someone for his company, much less his personal assistant. His mother, Joyce Carter, had convinced him it would be good for PR and his karma. The latter was something he had been lacking lately, so he gave in to his mother's wishes with the caveat that it had to be someone with at least a smidgen of qualifications. He should have known better, as Joyce Carter hadn't become the wife and mother of top entrepreneurs without being a shrewd negotiator herself. The following day, she had placed Abby's resume on his desk with a triumphant grin on her face. "I do believe a smidgen of qualification was your only qualification?" she asked, raising an eyebrow, as if she dared him to deny it. Alex knew that if had really wanted to, he could have avoided hiring Abby, but her background intrigued him. She was a woman intelligent enough to go through college, but naive enough to stay in an abusive relationship. She also had this secret of murdering her ex-boyfriend. Her records weren't sealed, but who would think to ask during a job interview, "Have you ever murdered anyone?" Then there was her interview. He had planned to intimidate her enough to back out on her own with her tail between her legs. His mother wouldn't be able to fault him if her candidate quit. Instead of being intimidated, Abby Redding answered all of his questions with aplomb. In a situation where most men would have cowered, she became brave. He wasn't sure what he expected of her, but since arriving at the cabin, he'd been shocked by Abby. First, she knocked herself unconscious. Then she screamed bloody murder in the middle of the night. And now here she was accusing him of attacking her in her sleep. Not to mention her annoying propensity to apologize incessantly. Was she really insane? It was self-defense, Abby whispered. Alex pursed his lips together in thought. "So I read." "You have no right to ask me about it," she said, covering the bracelet she always seemed to be wearing with one hand. "What was the deal with that bracelet?" Alex nodded. "Fair enough. I don't really want to know about it. I already have the facts. He hurt you. You stabbed him. End of story." He watched her mouth turn downward. She shook her head. "It's not that simple." "Isn't it?" Alex asked before he could stop himself. Why am I still talking to her? A sudden rainstorm pounding against the roof caused them both to look upward. Alex looked back at Abby. She did have what looked like a hickey on her neck. He still couldn't believe she had come pounding into his room. "I think you should leave my room now," Alex said, his voice almost drowned out by the din of the rain. "Not until you apologize," she whispered. He could tell it was taking a lot for her to stand there, trying to push her shoulders back in fake bravery. Still, he could feel his anger rising. "Why should I apologize for something I didn't do? How can you so easily forget yourself? I thought you needed this job, or was it your plan to become homeless?" What? Don't be so shocked. My security team did a thorough job investigating you. Did your family disown you? Is that why you couldn't turn to them for help after your boyfriend was found dead? He could see something flicker in her eyes before she looked away. He must have hit a sore spot. Too bad for Abby Redding. Alex wasn't successful because he was a kind person. He pressed further. Were they tired of your sob stories and having to help you? Were they tired of being manipulated by you? Did you take this job thinking you could manipulate me too? This is all some kind of ploy, isn't it? No, she whispered, her head down. Think this through, Ms. Redding. Who would believe you? Why would I do something like this? I'm rich, handsome, and successful. In theory, I could get any woman I wanted. Why would I need to force someone? Handsome men don't always need a reason to be bad, she answered, looking straight at him. For all I know, you just get your kicks from hurting women. Her answer surprised and annoyed him. What if something just bit you? Like a bug? This is an old cabin. We're in the middle of a wooded area. It's natural for bugs to get in. Wouldn't you have felt my weight on top of you if it really was me giving you that hickey? There's no way I could have moved away from you fast enough. Take a moment to really think about it, Ms. Redding. I don't know, she admitted. A splash of crimson flushed her cheeks. Her fury had suddenly been replaced with embarrassment. I know what I felt. Well, whatever it was that you felt wasn't me. I promise I didn't touch you. Bugs don't make you feel like something's sucking on you, Abby continued. Fine, let's go to your room and check. Alex didn't wait for her, but headed towards the pink room. He flipped on the light switch and pulled back the comforter. Next to her pillow were 3 dark leeches. Abby yelped and jumped back. No! She covered her face with her hands. Alex cursed as he removed the pillowcase from the pillow and gathered the 3 intruders into his grasp. What was that about it being me coming onto you at night? That's impossible, Abby whispered. Why would there be leeches? Alex brushed past her to get rid of the leeches, leaving her behind. Once he was downstairs, he cursed again. She was following him. Those weren't there a few minutes ago, she said. I swear it. Oh, you swear it, do you? You expect me to believe you? Yes. Just like you believed me when I said I didn't touch you, Alex asked. Normally, he would have enjoyed verbally sparring with someone, but Abby's beaten expression made him feel uncomfortable. He cleared his throat and turned away from her. Don't think I'm going to forgive this incident, Ms. Redding. You're still fired. She was quiet for a moment before nodding. I understand. What I did was inexcusable. I just wish you'd understand where I'm coming from. After Bryce, I promised myself I wouldn't allow anyone to hurt me or take advantage of me. I know I was wrong, but I really did think you took advantage and were trying to play it off as if I were crazy. I thought we agreed not to discuss this, Alex said coldly. I'm sorry, she whispered so softly he barely heard her. He watched her shoulders dip in defeat before heading back upstairs. Alex sighed. He should never have hired her. She was without a doubt one of the biggest mistakes he'd made lately. He blamed this cabin. He was foolish to buy it, he was foolish to hire Abby Redding, and he was foolish for feeling guilty. A few minutes later, he watched as Abby came back downstairs, her suitcase behind her. What are you doing? He asked. I think it's best if I leave now. There's no reason for me to stay, is there? You're still fired if that's what you're asking, but you don't have to leave. It's raining outside. Why do you always make me feel as though I'm some sort of monster? Alex asked, irritated. I can't make you feel anything. Only you are responsible for your feelings. At least, that's what my therapist tells me. You're really standing there, ready to get soaked to the bone in the rain, trying to give me advice? Abby ignored him and continued out the door. You're seriously leaving now? In this storm? As if on cue, a loud roar of thunder blasted through the sky. I don't feel comfortable being here right now, so yes, thank you for the opportunity. She was gripping her bracelet again, and Alex wondered if it was special to her in some way. This had to be some sort of ploy on her end. She was trying to make him give in and give her a second chance. She was mistaken if she thought that would happen. Fine, get out of here. If you expect me to feel sorry for you and give you back your job, you're wrong. Alex turned away from her and headed back upstairs. He heard the front door close behind her and sighed. He didn't force her to leave in the middle of the rain. She did that all on her own. I won't feel guilty. I won't. He was passing the pink room when he heard someone laughing. Alex paused and smirked. He knew it was just a ploy. Abby, did you come back already? When he didn't get a response, he assumed he had just heard incorrectly. He took another step forward and the laughter filled his ears once more. Abby, if you're trying to use a new tactic to stay, this is ridiculous. Alex found himself entering the pink room. On the bed that Abby had been sleeping on was a rag doll with red hair. Without thinking, he reached out and picked it up. It was soft in his hands, and the thought of a young girl holding it made him smile. Written on the bottom of the doll's right leg were the initials CC. Is that your name, CC? Was it you laughing in here, CC? Alex asked the doll. He sighed. Am I going crazy and talking to a doll now? He glanced out the window and saw the headlights of Abby's rental car flicker on and off. She must be having car trouble. He watched as she finally started driving forward. The rain was heavier now, and the roads were bound to be muddy, or worse, flooded. He watched as she tried reversing the car to turn it around. Within seconds, the car appeared to jerk forward and collide straight into a tree. Alex tossed the doll onto the bed and rushed downstairs. He pulled on a pair of shoes before running out into the rain. What were you thinking? Alex yelled. Abby? Was she that desperate to keep her job? Did she really ram her car into a tree to get him to feel guilty? Alex opened the driver's door and saw Abby, pushed back into her seat, unconscious. The airbags had deployed and the car was smoking. Getting knocked out twice in one evening couldn't be a good thing. Don't move, Abby. Don't move. I'm calling 911. As he waited for an operator to pick up, something in the passenger seat caught his eye. It was the rag doll with red hair. Was there a second doll? Alex looked back up to the window of the pink room. It was only for a second, but he could have sworn he saw the shadow of a man standing there. Chapter 10. Am I dying? Abby awoke to male voices that felt like echoes bouncing around her head. She groaned as she tried to move. What happened? She remembered arguing with Alex Carter and him firing her. The last thing she could conjure up was the memory of her turning the key in the ignition of her rental car. How are you feeling, Missy? Abby opened her eyes to see the weathered face of a skinny, white-haired man that reminded her of an anorexic Albert Einstein. Stand back, Deacon. You're scaring her, a familiar voice said. Alex Carter stepped forward and pulled the older man back. Are you sure nothing's broken? Why does she look so pale? The white-haired man nodded. She'll have a few bruises, but she'll be fine. He turned to her and grinned. You have the hardest noggin I ever came across. Well, what happened? Abby asked. She was on the sofa in the living room. You decided to introduce your car to some trees. The old man named Deacon slapped his thigh and laughed. Can't say they were too friendly to you. Who are you? Abby asked, waiting for her eyes to adjust to the light around her. He's the closest thing Bayless has to an emergency room, Sheriff Caldwell said, identifying him as the familiar voice. Sheriff? Abby still didn't understand what had happened. Abby, Deacon is going to ask you a few more questions to make sure you're okay. He's a doctor, so you can answer him, Sheriff Caldwell said, as he cast a wary look at the older man. After Deacon finished his examination, he repeated that it was a miracle, but Abby would be fine. Alex was instructed to keep an eye on her overnight. Sheriff Caldwell explained what had happened to Abby. He turned to her and said, I'm going to write in the report that the car skidded due to the weather. I don't remember, Abby admitted. It'll make the insurance claim easier if we stick to that story. You didn't drive into the trees on purpose, did you? Of course not. Abby could feel her cheeks blushing. All right then. We'll be out of your way. You two be careful. Mr. Carter, it would behoove you and your employee if you didn't send her on any more errands in the middle of a thunderstorm. Sheriff Caldwell raised an eyebrow at Alex. Alex ignored the warning. Thank you two for coming out so late and helping to move her back inside. It was then that Abby noticed the clothing of all three men was damp from the rain. I'm so sorry, she whispered, clenching her teeth at the pain. I don't know what happened. Don't worry, Missy, Deacon smiled. We're just happy you're safe. He turned to Sheriff Caldwell. Let's go, Don. These two young ones need some peace and privacy. After the two men left, Abby tried to get up and grimaced in pain. What do you think you're doing now? If this is some sort of ploy to get workers' compensation, forget about it. I fired you before you got into an accident. Abby closed her eyes before speaking. You're all heart. You know that? Is ploy your favorite word? You seem to think I have a lot of ploys, don't you? Alex had the grace to look a little embarrassed before asking. So, what really happened? I told you. I don't remember. Abby had opened her eyes and dared to look at Alex. His arms were crossed at his chest, and he looked confused. Utterly confused. While Deacon was examining you, I checked your room again. I found a few more leeches. It's a damned mystery to me why they're in your room. The only thing I can think of is that they're coming in because of the rain. I didn't put them there, if that's what you're thinking, Abby said slowly. Did I say you put them there? Alex's voice was a bit louder than he intended. Abby peered at him again and she noticed he looked different, as if he was worried. Is he worried about me? No. That would be impossible. I wanted to ask you something. Alex was shifting his weight from one foot to the other. Abby wondered if he realized what he was doing. I found something strange in your rental car. Something strange? Abby didn't have a clue as to what he was talking about. He was gone for a moment, but when he returned, he held up a rag doll with red hair. This. Abby felt her stomach clench. That was in the storage shed. Is that so? Alex held the doll by its hair. What I thought was strange was that before I found it in your rental car, it was in your bedroom. A moment of silence passed as they both looked at one another. Abby's arms felt sore as she moved a hand over her beaded bracelet to reassure herself that she was okay. I'm alive. You saw this last in the storage shed. I saw it in your bedroom and then in the rental car. What do you think it means? Alex asked softly. Abby opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. She watched as a myriad of emotions passed over her, the face of her former employer. He held the doll up and sighed before looking back at her. Explain to me again why you thought I had attacked you. Abby hesitated before answering. I don't know. It felt like someone or something was pushing me down. It felt like there were hands on my body. It was weird. One moment I was having a dream about my ex-boyfriend, and the next I woke up and there was this hickey on my neck and you were at the door. Is it really that hard to understand why I'd think you attacked me? I only came to your room because you were screaming, Alex said evenly. Abby watched him tap his chin with 2 fingers as he thought things over. Finally, he sat in the love seat across from her and stretched out his long legs. I'll make you a deal, Abby Redding. A deal? Let's both just forget about what happened earlier. Abby gripped her wrist and felt the beads of her bracelet digging into her flesh. What did you just say? Don't misunderstand. I don't want to be known as a man who fired a worker who then got into a car accident. I'm not that petty. I'll overlook tonight if you promise to do your job without any other incidents. Is that clear? Rent, food, survival. They were all reasons why she needed to lower her pride and snatch up his offer. What do you say? Alex was leaning back in his seat, his eyes fixed on the ceiling fan that was rapidly spinning in circles. I have to agree. I don't have anything else to fall back on. Abby admitted. A ghost of a smile crossed Alex's face. That's very honest of you to admit. I'm going to change now. These clothes are still wet, and I detest the smell of clothes that don't dry properly. From the corner of her eye, she watched him climb up the staircase. Something wasn't right. There was no reason for Alex Carter, the arrogant boss from hell, to forgive her. Was he guilty of giving her the hickey? Abby shook her head. No. He seemed adamant he was innocent. Still, he was hiding something. He had to be. Why else would he let her continue working for him? More importantly, why did he hire her after knowing what happened between her and Bryce? Even now, Abby felt like he wasn't telling her everything. 20 minutes later, Alex came back downstairs and laid out a blanket on the love seat he occupied earlier. "What are you doing?" Abby asked, her eyes wide. "What does it look like I'm doing? I'm getting ready to go to bed." Here, hands at his hips, Alex frowned. "Do you expect me to leave you alone after you hurt yourself this evening?" "Honestly, yes," she answered truthfully, earning her a scowl. It started to rain again. They could hear the water's steady tapping against the roof. "And you inferred I didn't have a heart," Alex muttered. She couldn't help herself. She had to answer. "Did I say that?" "No, I wouldn't dare. Not to the man that's responsible for my paycheck." She heard him make grunt in disbelief as she watched him attempt to make himself comfortable. No heart? That wasn't true. He was downstairs keeping her company. Abby mentally took back her earlier insult. Alex Carter wasn't heartless. He had a heart. Well, at least half of one. Chapter 11. "That's a mighty big bump you have there, Abby." Wally shook his head in dismay as Abby was trying to pay for the groceries Alex had ordered her to buy. He had made a list that morning of everything he thought they would need over the next few days. Apparently, he thought they needed 3 boxes of Applejack cereal. While she gathered the items to pay for them, Alex stood in front of the magazine rack near the register. Chuck had his hip against the counter of the register with his wife, Maria, as she paid for their groceries. "I heard you were in an accident," Chuck said. He was facing Abby, but his eyes were on Alex, who was skimming through a Forbes magazine, a look of disdain on his face. Maria turned to Abby. "An accident? Chuck, why didn't you say anything? Joni and Yvonne probably don't know either, or they would have told me." She turned to Abby, her eyes flicking over her as if she were looking for bruises, and asked, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Maria. Thank you for asking. Are all the magazines here a year old?" Alex tossed the business magazine down and turned towards the register when a wheelchair blocked his path. "The hunting magazines are all up to date. We don't get too many suits such as yourself up here in Baylis," Zachary Caldwell answered. His rough voice was dripped with derision. "I don't suppose you're interested in hunting though, are you? You seem like you read Health magazine or Good Living. Maybe People." A flicker of anger passed through Alex's blue eyes. Abby tensed as Alex gave Zachary an even smile. "Mr. Caldwell," Alex said in acknowledgement. "I told you before, boy. Call me Zachary. I run this store, and if you ever want a discount on your Applejack cereal, it would be wise of you to be a little nicer to the locals." "And I told you, don't call me boy." Maria leaned over to Abby and whispered, "Zachary thinks he has a shot with your hot boss." "What?" "Maria," Chuck hissed, trying to stop his wife from spreading rumors. "Is Zachary gay?" Abby asked softly, glancing at Zachary and Alex to make sure they didn't overhear. Maria shrugged. "He's never dated a woman, even before he had his accident, and he sure does like to flirt with the male travelers that come through this town. Joni said that's why he leaves town once a month. He's off to meet his hookups." Chuck shook his head. "Maria, you don't know that for a fact. Everyone knows Zachary loves fishing. That's probably where he goes." Maria rolled her eyes. "Sure, but has he ever brought back any fish? Talked about the fish he caught? Showed pictures of the fish he caught?" When her husband looked chagrined, she scoffed. "That's what I thought." All three turned back to Zachary and Alex, who seemed to be in a tense staring contest. Zachary grinned at Alex. You're feisty. I like that. Alex gave a slight nod and walked past him as the door jingled, indicating a new customer had entered the store. Good afternoon, Sheriff Caldwell. Wally waved at the sheriff, who stopped in front of Abby. She caught a whiff of coffee coming from him. You doing okay? He was standing in front of her, his hands on his hips, pushing back the jacket he wore, displaying his gun and holster. Abby touched her beaded bracelet. I've met caring people. Yes, thank you for asking. I just have a headache to remind me of yesterday, Abby answered. You're lucky. I hope you know that. Car accidents can be serious, the sheriff said as he looked at his brother Zachary. His accident had left him paralyzed, but Abby had been very fortunate that all she had was a headache. I can feel your eyes on me, Don, Zachary called out, scratching at his beard. You know I don't like it when you try to act like the big brother. I am your big brother, you idiot. Sheriff Caldwell shook his head and chuckled. So it wasn't the brakes or anything, was it? Chuck tossed the question to Abby, still keeping an eye on Alex, who was now perusing the different gums the store had to offer. He looked interested in some cinnamon-flavored gum. The brakes? Wally's eyes widened. Are you asking if someone messed with Abby's brakes? Why else would her car skid like that? Chuck asked. Sheriff Dan interrupted the conversation. There was no foul play involved, Chuck, so please don't spread any wild rumors about this. It rained last night and the car skidded because of the wet pavement. Nothing more. Nothing less. Why are you making it sound like I'm some kind of gossip, Sheriff? Chuck asked, crossing his arms in indignation. I just asked Abby how she was doing. I only knew about the accident since the owner of the local car rental place a town over is a friend of mine. I was going to say it's because you're married to Maria. She and her friends are notorious gossips, the sheriff answered. However, seeing as your car rental friend already gave you the inside scoop, it seems Maria isn't the only gossip in your family. I take offense to that, Maria frowned as Wally helped her pack up the last of her groceries. I don't gossip. I share the news. I would have been a news anchor if Bayless was big enough to have a news station. Chuck muttered something as Wally stepped away from Maria's groceries and began to ring up Abby. Well, I'm glad you're okay, Abby. I'm also glad Mr. Carter is at the cabin with you. It's never safe to stay in a secluded place like that alone, especially the cabin with all its history. Abby stole a glance at Alex, who had just thrown his pack of gum on the counter. He didn't seem interested in their conversation. History? Abby asked before remembering Maria's shared information about the sheriff's daughter, Crystal. She quickly shut her mouth and covered it with one hand. An awkward silence followed as the sheriff parked a look of warning on Wally. That's right, Alex said, walking up behind Abby. People were murdered in that cabin we're staying in. It's still an unsolved case. He looked at Sheriff Caldwell before adding, Isn't that right, Sheriff? No, we know who murdered Crystal that night, the sheriff answered. But wasn't there more than one murder? Wally asked, still ringing up Abby's groceries. I know 2 murderers were never caught. Alex grinned. I guess some murders aren't as important as others. Alex nodded farewell to the sheriff before exiting the store, the bell ringing with his departure. Using the credit card Alex had given her earlier, she paid for the groceries, her cheeks flushed in embarrassment. Sorry about that, Abby muttered before picking up her groceries and following her employer to his car. He was waiting for her to put the bags in the trunk. Once she was in the car, Abby couldn't help but ask, Mr. Carter, who else was murdered in the cabin? He didn't answer her at first. He pressed the gas, kicking up pebbles and dirt behind him. They passed rows of dew-covered trees until they crossed the wooden bridge that led to his cabin. Abby figured she wasn't going to get an answer when he finally placed the car in park. Alex leaned against the steering wheel. There's an important reason I bought this cabin. Abby waited for him to continue. She tapped the beaded bracelet she wore, praying for patience. Bryce used to do this to her as well. He wouldn't answer her questions as though they weren't important, or he'd be stuck in his own thoughts, completely forgetting her. Abby sighed and opened the door when he spoke again. My parents thought I was crazy for buying this cabin. They said that I should just let it go. Let what go? The past. But I can't. For better or worse, whatever happened here years ago helped shape my life into what it is today. Abby frowned. How if you didn't even live here? Besides, you're a rich and successful businessman. Shouldn't you be grateful? She slapped her hand over her mouth again, peeked over at her boss. He sighed. That doesn't stop the questions from coming. What questions? I need to know what really happened here. I need to know the truth about what happened that night. Why? Again, Alex didn't answer and exited the car. Abby rushed to get the groceries and follow him inside. Mr. Carter, if you need me to help you, please let me know. Abby watched as he took in her shabby appearance, topped off with a bruised forehead. A corner of his mouth lifted. Of course you will. You'll do anything I say, won't you? Abby's eyebrows rose. Excuse me? He chuckled. You're my personal assistant, Abby. It's what I pay you to do. Right, she whispered. How could she forget? I went through the list of personal belongings that Wally had stored away and highlighted the items I want you to retrieve from the storage room. Gather them within the hour. Abby picked up the list he pointed at on the coffee table. Picture albums, family movies, and a diary were the highlighted items. Is this all you need, sir? For now, yes. Hopefully, they'll have some clues for me. Why do you care what happened so long ago? Abby bit her lip at his annoyed expression before continuing. I only ask because maybe it'll help me understand why it's so important to you, and then I'll also do a better job of helping you. Your paycheck should be motivation enough, Alex said dryly. Of course. Abby felt heat burning her cheeks. Why would he bother to answer any of her questions? Your emotions are written all over your face. Did I hurt your feelings? Alex asked. Do you care? Abby responded. Not particularly. Then let's not focus on me. I'll try my best to help you figure out what happened. I'll start working on this list, Abby said, leaving Alex alone in the living area of the cabin. He saw the rag doll that had been left on the coffee table and picked it up. He squeezed the doll as though it were a stress ball. I'll find out the truth. A tinkling of laughter filled the air, and he turned the doll over and stared at its button eyes. I'll find out what really happened to you, Crystal. As your brother, it's the least I could do. Chapter 12. Picture albums, picture albums. Where are the picture albums? Abby poked at the different boxes in the storage room, a pen and the list in her right hand. She had gathered a few family photos and found a diary that was practically empty. She pulled at a box on the top shelf, causing it to fall forward. Crap! 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 She shrieked as the contents fell on her. Well, at least I found the photo albums. Abby groaned as she gathered the photos that had fallen. She stood up, her hands full, when she heard a low growl. Abby froze. She hated dogs. Bryce had once told her that dogs could sense her fear, which was enough to make them attack. The growl became louder, more fierce. Puppy? Abby called out softly, thinking it might calm down if it heard a cajoling voice. Here, puppy, puppy. She gulped down a knot of fear. Who am I kidding? That thing doesn't sound anything like a puppy. She thought about running but knew she couldn't outrun a dog. She took a small step forward. One growling dog now sounded like two. Abby heard a whimpering sound and pinched herself when she realized it was coming from her. She touched her beaded bracelet, forcing herself to think of something positive. I am brave. I am not afraid. She remembered Bryce mocking her when it came to animals. Abby, why are you so afraid of dogs? Do you think they're all going to bite you? Don't be stupid. They only bite if you provoke them. A bitter feeling crawled its way into her heart as she remembered his scornful words. If she had been smarter, she would have recognized that Bryce was more dangerous than any wild dog she'd been afraid of. He never needed a provocation to strike. Doggy? Abby called out. Doggy, where are you? Abby took another tentative step forward, clicking her pen into action just in case she needed to use it as a weapon. Something strong suddenly knocked her to the ground, Abby screamed as she tried to fend off the two large dogs that were growling and nipping at her legs. "She's here!" She heard a female voice cry out before a flash of light blinded her. "Stop!" A male voice Abby recognized, cut through the air. "I'll call the police if you hurt Abby." "Wally?" Abby groaned. She opened her eyes to see the dogs were gone, and 3 people were standing above her. "Are you all right, Abby?" Wally asked, extending a hand to help her up. I'm fine." Abby looked around warily, looking for the vicious dogs. "Did they leave?" "Did who leave?" Wally asked as another flash of light popped in front of her. The 2 strangers were standing in front of her, trying to take pictures with an old-looking camera. "What are you doing?" Abby asked. Her brows rose in anger as she held a hand out to cover her face. "I'm Jenny Blake, and this is my partner, Cletus Jones. We're reporters for Starsight. You've probably heard of us," the woman said, smiling. Abby shook her head. "No, I'm sorry." She looked down at her torn jeans. "I think we need to call animal control or something. I just got attacked by some wild dogs. Will I need a rabies shot?" Abby wiped the tears from her eyes when the camera flashed again. She gave an annoyed look before saying, "Hey, cut it out. I don't care what sleazy online rag you work for. This is private property. You can't just come here and take pictures." "Online rag?" Jenny repeated, clearly affronted. She took a step back. "Abby, I didn't see any wild dogs here," Wally whispered to her. "Did you see what kind they were?" "Then what else tore up my pants, Wally? My imagination?" Abby groaned as she stretched her legs since they still felt a bit shaky. "I'm sorry to upset you, Abby." Wally looked away, his cheeks slightly pink. "No. I'm sorry. I shouldn't take out my anger on you. I'm sorry, truly, Wally. But there were 2 wild dogs. I heard them. I felt them. There's no way I imagined this." "There were no dogs," Cletus said. "Online rag?" Jenny repeated, still in shock by the insult. "Cletus, did you hear her call us an online rag?" "See?" Cletus showed Abby the photo of her on the ground. Her arms were covering her face and her legs were slightly bent, but there were no dogs. "I thought it was strange, but I figured maybe you were on drugs or something." He shrugged, still looking at his photos. He glanced up at her. "Are you on drugs?" "No, of course, I'm not on drugs," Abby gasped. I could have sworn there were 2 dogs. I felt them. I even have marks on my legs. I don't understand." "Neither do I, but pictures don't lie." "No, but they don't show the whole truth either," Abby protested. Cletus gave an uncomfortable smile. Clearly, he thought she had a screw loose somewhere. "What are you 3 doing here anyway?" Abby asked, rubbing her temples. "Online rag?" Jenny repeated for the 3rd time. She turned a pair of stormy blue eyes on Abby. "I'll have you know that Starsight is not some online rag, as you so rudely put it. We report the truth." "Right," Cletus felt compelled to add. "So what are you doing here?" Abby asked, still not understanding their presence. "We have it on good authority that Alex Carter is staying in this cabin with a woman." Jenny sneered. "Of course he is," Wally said, crossing his arms. "But what does that have to do with you 2? Alex Carter has never been linked to any one particular woman. People want to know if one of America's top bachelors is going to be off the market." Jenny looked at Abby and shook her head in disapproval. "I have to admit, I'm a bit surprised by his taste." "I'm calling the cops," Abby said as she stomped away from both reporters. Wally followed her. "Fine, we'll leave, but we have your picture," Jenny reminded her. "The story runs. I'm his assistant, not his girlfriend. The women of the world have nothing to fear when it comes to me and Alex Carter." Abby spat, still reeling from the dogs she swore she had felt and seen. She was close to shattering into a million pieces at any moment. "I don't believe you," Jenny replied. "Then run the story. I don't care. I bet Mr. Carter will though, and I pity the people who upset him. You've heard the rumors, right? That he's merciless?" She saw Jenny wavering a bit before Cletus nudged her and she answered, Fine. I'll wait until I've checked my facts. Understand this. I will have an eye on you two. Jenny shoved at Cletus, and the two walked away. Abby, are you okay? Wally asked. I don't know. What are you doing here? I mean, those two reporters kind of explained themselves, but you didn't. Abby nodded toward Jenny and Cletus, who were both heading towards their car. I heard them at the grocery store. They were talking to Yvonne and Joni. Those women are such big gossips, Abby said, sighing. Well, they were asking for directions and wanted to know what your relationship to Mr. Carter was. They looked like trouble, so I followed them out here. Abby nodded. Thanks, Wally. I was trying to get some stuff from storage for Mr. Carter when I heard two dogs growling. I was so scared I could barely move. Then they came out of nowhere and started barking and biting. Wally looked at her torn pants. I see your pants look pretty bad, but I don't see any cuts or bite marks. What? That's impossible. I felt them. Abby saw what Wally described and paled. Did I imagine those dogs? The thought caused her heart to beat faster, and she took an unsteady breath before leaning against the cabin. What is going on out here? Alex Carter took in Abby's shaken appearance and Wally's worried look before crossing his arms against his chest. Do you two have something to tell me? Wally glanced at Abby, who lowered her head. There were two reporters here. I followed them, but they scared Abby, Wally explained. Reporters? Yes, sir. They said they wanted to write a story about you living with a woman up here, Wally said. They were from Starside, Abby said. Alex's eyes widened. A woman? Her? She's just an employee. Yes, sir. We explained that to them, but I don't think they'll be giving up anytime soon. Alex groaned in frustration. Why is everything so difficult here? He then tapped his chin and set his eyes on Wally. I suppose it can't be helped. Wally, you'll have to move in with us. Chapter 13. They were in their rental car, making their way across the bridge that led to the cabin. There's something going on in that cabin, Jenny fumed. We would have gotten the scoop if we hadn't stumbled across that woman and her creepy friend. I saw him at the grocery store we stopped at earlier. He must have followed us there. Why would he want to follow up? I mean, who does that? We do, Cletus reminded her, with a sly grin. We're reporters, so it's different. It's not weird when we follow people. I bet he followed us because he had a crush on me. It was probably love at first sight. Cletus rolled his eyes. Really, Jenny? Do you think that kid saw you, fell in love, and decided to warn the people staying in the cabin who we were? That's pushing it a bit far, even for an egomaniac like you. What you're saying makes no sense. Besides, he seemed to be friends with that woman. That reminds me. Can you believe what that horrid woman said? Online rag? Just watch. I'll show her an online rag. Do you really think she's dating Alex Carter? Cletus asked. She doesn't seem to be his type. That doesn't matter. They're living together in a cabin he just purchased. Hasn't anyone ever told you we don't need the truth to sell stories? What if she really is just an employee? Cletus asked. We shouldn't paint her as his newest girlfriend if she isn't. Alex Carter is in the public eye, so it's expected we report on him but not his workers. If she's not his latest fling, it'll be a lesson to her to not work for rich, handsome men the media is obsessed over. You mean that you're obsessed over? Cletus muttered. It's not just me, Cletus. Before you paint me as some sort of villain, don't forget there's always been a lot of mystery around Alex Carter. Sure, we know about all of his accomplishments, but his personal life has been off limits. Don't you find that odd? Jenny asked. Cletus shrugged. Who wants their personal life exposed to the public? Are you sure you're not just using this story as an excuse to get close to him, Jenny? Her eyes widened. She and Cletus had worked together for years, so he'd know if she was lying. Instead of answering, she made a sound of annoyance. Jenny? Oh, be quiet, Cletus. She continued to drive down the wooded path that led to the main street of town. You want me to stay here? With the two of you? Wally asked, his face paling. It'll make things much easier to have you here. You can help Miss Redding in her tasks when she goes into town, Alex explained. I can do my job without assistance, Abby protested, feeling slightly like a liar considering she still believed dogs had just attacked her, which was a clear sign she was surely losing her mind. Alex ignored her. "You be doing me a favor, Wally. I can't have reporters making up stories that I'm here having some dalliance." Wally scratched the back of his head. "Well, I'd need to tell Mother. I'm sure she'd be all right with me doing you a favor and all. Let me pick up some of my things, and then I'll come back." "Sounds great. Don't worry. You'll be compensated for your time." Alex smiled as Wally left. Abby followed her boss inside. "Why did you really hire him? Why do you look so frightened?" Alex asked instead of answering her. "What happened to you outside?" I fell. That's all." He frowned as if he didn't believe her. He placed a hand on her cheek, looking over the bruise on her forehead. Abby gulped, unused to the attention. "Are you sure you're okay?" Alex asked, before dropping his hand and taking a step back. "I'm fine," Abby insisted. "In that case, it's late. Why don't you go to bed?" Alex suggested, not looking at her. "What about Wally? Shouldn't I wait for him?" "No, I have some matters to discuss with him." Abby bit her bottom lip. "Other than the chores around here, are you going to give me some real tasks as your personal assistant? I'm only asking because I don't feel like I'm being very useful." Alex sighed. "You were hired at the insistence of my mother. You'll be given more tasks. I'm just making preparations." "Preparations? It's best that you don't know for the time being. Having reporters show up was unexpected, but perhaps we'll use that to our advantage. We'll need help in finding out the truth." "The truth about what?" Abby had to ask. Alex smirked. "If a man wears a badge, do you think it makes him a good guy?" "I don't follow. Forget it. Just go upstairs. I want to talk to Wally alone. Understood?" "Yes, Mr. Carter," Abby said before heading upstairs to the pink bedroom. She checked the sheets for any bugs and was relieved to find them void of any. She did see a row of ants trailing against the windowsill. 20 minutes later, her eyes were closed and she was drifting in and out of her dreams. "Why are you doing this? Don't you love me?" It was a question Bryce had asked her time and time again. Each time the police became involved, he would guilt her into dropping the charges. "If you forgive him again, don't call me next time," her sister's voice scolded. "You don't understand," Abby whispered, her voice cracking as she realized she barely understood her obsession with Bryce either. "No, I don't understand. I don't understand how you can forgive him. Or why you like living this chaotic lifestyle. Why are you choosing him over your family?" "Abby! Abby, come here. Forget your sister," Bryce's voice called out to her. "Listen, I have to go, but I'll call you, okay?" Abby asked, looking back at Bryce. "Don't bother." Abby's eyes opened and her cheeks were stained with tears. How long had it been since she'd seen her sister? After Bryce was gone, her family still hadn't bothered to reach out to her. They had an "I told you so" attitude that Abby wasn't prepared to cope with. She was staring at the ceiling. The only light in the room was from the moon shining through the window. She touched the beads on her blessings bracelet, but no thoughts came to mind. She heard a slight tapping on the window to her right, and her breath hitched. She was too afraid to look. "Abby," a voice whispered. "Abby." Abby gulped, her hands tightening into fists. Should I run out of the room? Am I going crazy? First the dogs, and now a voice in the dark. Abby started reciting prayers. Perhaps whatever was calling her name would go away. The tapping on the window became louder. She was on the second floor, so she made up some plausible explanations. "It's probably just some tree branches. Or a bird. Abby, Abby, Abby. If I ignore it, it'll go away. Tap, tap, tap." Abby squeezed her eyes shut. "Abby, look at me. Don't you love me?" At the sound of the familiar question, she opened her eyes to see a dark figure standing next to her bed. She didn't scream. She was too frightened. Instead, she let the whispers surround her. "Don't you love me?" She couldn't make out the face, but she tightened her sheet around her as her voice whispered, "Bryce?" Chapter 14. Abby choked back a cry as something crashed against the window. She turned to see a crow flying outside, its dark figure almost camouflaged against the inky sky. She scampered back on the bed as she turned back to where the figure had been standing. It was gone. Abby could hear her ragged breathing as she looked around the pink room. She was alone. She took a deep breath as she tried to rationalize what had just happened. Was it a nightmare? She laid her head back down and closed her eyes. It was just a dream, that's all. Just a dream. She was finally starting to relax when the soft melody of a familiar music box began playing. Her eyes shot open as her face contorted in fear. Her heartbeat thudded in her ears as she quickly got out of bed and flipped on the lights. On a shelf was the music box that Abby had seen days earlier. She didn't bother to try and think about what was going on. She left the pink room and rushed into the hallway, bumping into a thin chest. "Abby, are you okay?" Wally asked. "Wally, what are you doing up here?" Abby asked, looking around the hallway, her eyes wild. "Mr. Carter wanted me to stay here because of the reporters, remember? Are you okay?" I'm fine. I couldn't sleep. That's all." "Are you sure?" Should she tell him the truth and risk seeming like a crazy person? Abby bit her bottom lip. "There was a music box in my room. It turned on all of a sudden and scared me. I sound silly, don't I?" "Of course not. I get scared of all sorts of things. I can't even watch horror movies, or I have nightmares." "Now, you said it was a music box," Wally asked. "Did you want me to take a look at it?" Abby wasn't sure why, but she found herself nodding, and Wally stepped into her room, flipping on the light. "Where's the music box at?" "It's on the shelf," Abby answered. Wally took a second look at the shelf, his eyebrows lowering in confusion. His big eyes circled the room as if he'd never seen it before, turning back to Abby. "Are you sure it was on the shelf? I don't see anything." Abby stepped from behind him and sighed. Wally was right. There was no music box. "What is happening? I swear there was a music box." "Are you sure you heard it?" "Maybe you're tired and thought you heard it. I imagine all sorts of things when I'm tired." I'm not sure of anything right now." "You've had a rough couple of days, Abby. Is it possible it was just a dream?" She wasn't sure why Wally was trying to convince her she hallucinated the music box into existence. Abby felt for her beaded bracelet and took an unsteady breath. "I guess I must have." She could see the concern on Wally's face and it bothered her. Her palms itched to slap the pity off of his face. She hated that look. It was the look her lawyers and the workers at the women's shelter gave her after they heard how desperate she became to protect herself from Bryce. It was also the look her family gave her before she heard them gossiping about her, saying she had snapped. "I'm not crazy," Abby heard herself saying. "What?" "I'm not crazy." "I didn't say you were, Abby. You're probably just stressed and need some sleep." Those reporters were a surprise too. Mr. Carter seemed pretty upset about them being on the property. Wally eyed the door, taking a step towards it. "I'll just leave you alone then, so you can get some sleep. Good night, Abby." Abby watched him scurry out the door before placing her face in her hands and shaking her head. "I'm not crazy. I'm not." Still, she couldn't ignore the fact that she was hearing and seeing things. First the dogs, and now a shadow and a music box. She wasn't sure what she should do, so she pulled out her phone and typed in a message. "I need your help." Chapter 15. "Abby, are you okay? What's going on?" The male voice felt like a comforting balm on Abby's soul. "It's not like you to call so late." "Jason, I'm so sorry. I know it's late, but I didn't have anyone to turn to." Abby clutched her cell phone as she spoke to the therapist and group leader of her counseling circle. She had met Jason shortly after the grand jury decided not to try her for Bryce's murder. "Are you in a safe place right now?" Jason asked, his voice calm and even across the phone. I don't know. Is anyone with you?" "No," Abby whispered. "I'm alone right now. At least I think I am." "Abby, I want you to take a deep breath and slowly tell me what's going on, Jason said. I think I'm losing it, Jason, Abby admitted, tears beginning to fall. She swiped at her face with the back of her hand. I told you I got a job, remember? Yes. Does this have something to do with your new job? Sort of. I'm not really sure. I'm so confused. I'm sorry, Jason. I didn't mean to call you so late and waste your time. Her heart was racing in her chest. You're not wasting my time, Abby. You and everyone else in the group have my number for a reason. Now, I want you to take a moment to breathe. Can you do that for me? Yes, I'm sorry. Abby inhaled deeply, held her breath for a few seconds, and then exhaled. She did this several more times until her heart rate slowed. I'm ready, Abby said softly. Okay, great. I'm going to ask you some questions, but I want you to take a breath before you answer. Okay? Okay. Where are you? Abby's eyes bounced around the pink walls surrounding her. I'm in a cabin. I told you I got a new job. Well, my boss sent me to a town called Bayless. I was supposed to help him get the cabin ready before he arrived. How has that been going for you? Jason asked. His voice was like ASMR to Abby, and she took another deep breath before answering. It's been weird. I'm not really sure what to think. If I tell you what's been going on, I'm going to sound crazy. You can tell me anything, Jason reminded her. She took another deep breath. Bad things have been happening since I arrived. I keep hearing a little girl laughing. I swear I'm going to end up in the ER with as many times as I've hit my head. It's a miracle I don't have a concussion at this point. You hit your head? Abby groaned. Yes, a few times. A few times? Were they accidents? I'm not sure. I thought maybe, but maybe not. Jason, I think Bryce is here, with me. He wants revenge. I just know it. Jason didn't speak for a few moments before speaking. Abby, Bryce is dead. He can't hurt you anymore. Not physically, but what if he's trying to hurt me spiritually? He was bad, Jason. What if he's some sort of demon ghost and he wants revenge? What if he followed me here? I keep seeing things that aren't really there, but I feel them and I hear them. I don't know what's going on. What if he's stalking me, Jason? Every time I remember him, there's an incident. What do you mean by there being an incident? Something bad happens. I keep hearing the song Bryce and I shared. I swear I hear a little girl laughing too. This afternoon I thought dogs were attacking me, but there weren't any dogs. I felt something knock me down while I was outside. Am I going crazy? Please tell me I'm not crazy, Jason. I'm really starting to freak out over here. No, you're not crazy, Abby. You just started a new job. It's normal to feel pressured or stressed. That sometimes leads to hallucinations, especially with someone who has been through such traumatic events as you have. I don't prescribe medications, but perhaps you should see your family doctor when you return home and have him prescribe something. Are you sleeping okay? No. See? That's not helping either. Try to get some sleep tonight and remember that you're safe. Bryce can't hurt you anymore. So you don't believe in ghosts? No, not really. I think ghosts are something people create to feel comfortable about death. Abby closed her eyes. Jason didn't understand. She tried to explain again. But he's gone, Abby. Bryce is gone and he's not coming back. Next time you start to get scared of your past memories with Bryce, I want you to imagine you standing face to face with him. Picture yourself tall and strong, and him small and weak. Abby sighed and wiped her eyes. I'm sorry. I know you're right. You've been doing so well in the group. You probably don't even realize how much it's helping you. You missed one meeting and the effects are already showing. It's good that you're checking in, Jason told her. I want you to use your blessing bracelet and concentrate on everything that's good in your life. I don't want you to dwell on the past. If thoughts of Bryce creep up, try to focus on tracking your blessings. If you can get your hands on something like Tylenol PM, take it. You need your sleep. Abby took a shuddering breath. Thank you, and I'm sorry. You probably think I'm so stupid for calling you because I thought Bryce was a ghost. You're not stupid, and it's okay to call me. That's why I gave everyone my number. I'm here for you. Call me if you need me and try to get some rest. After Abby disconnected the call, she held onto the bracelet around her wrist and began counting her blessings. I'm safe. I have a job. Jason is a great support system. I have a roof over my head. I made new friends. She thought of Wally's concern earlier. He was a friend. Right? She drifted off to sleep thinking of her different blessings. It wasn't until the sun streaming through her window woke her that she realized she had slept through the night. 20 minutes later, she found herself walking quietly down the stairs. She could hear someone talking on the phone. Yes, Mother, I know you think this is a bad idea, but I have to know the truth. For her. She didn't deserve this. I know you don't want me here, but you know how I am. I have to know the truth. Yes, being stubborn is definitely a trait I learned from you. I promise I'll be careful. Of course not. She's here to do her job. Abby watched Alex Carter talking on his phone as he flipped through photo books that were laid out on the coffee table. Yes, I'm very much aware of the reporters. No, I haven't fired her yet. Would you let me if I wanted to? I didn't think so. I promise I'll be careful. I told you. I just want to learn the truth. Yes, I know you and Father love me, but that doesn't mean I can overlook this. No, you didn't do anything wrong. You have nothing to be sorry about. Listen, I'm a little busy. I'm going to have to let you go, okay? Yes, I love you too. Okay. Bye. Alex disconnected the phone with a sound of frustration before plopping his head into the cushions of the sofa and closing his eyes. Was that your mother? Abby asked as she made her way to the love seat across from him. He didn't open his eyes before answering. Eavesdropping now? Why am I not surprised? Abby didn't bother responding. If she apologized, he'd probably get upset with her again. Instead, she picked up a photo album and began flipping through the pages. These belonged to the Caldwells. It wasn't a question, but a statement of fact. And? Nothing. Did you want me to look through them as well? Do you even know what you're looking for? He asked condescendingly. I will once you tell me. She plastered a fake smile on her face. Her answer earned her a smirk, and he sat back up, pulling the album out of her hands. I'm looking for pictures of her. He pointed to a beautiful woman. Her name is Maggie Caldwell. She was the sheriff's wife, wasn't she? Abby asked in a whisper. She was. I'm also looking for pictures of him. Abby's mouth slightly opened as her eyes settled on a dark-haired man with light blue eyes highlighted by strong cheekbones. She looked from the man to Alex and cleared her throat. The two men could have been doppelgangers. Did you have something to say? He asked, looking through a different photo album. His body looked tense, as if he were anticipating her reaction. When she didn't speak, he looked up at her curiously. Really? You don't have any questions at all about who that man may be or why I want his picture? No, not really, but if you want me to be more inquisitive, I can be. She couldn't help the spark of sarcasm that painted her words. Alex seemed to like it when she was feisty based on the smile he gave her, so she continued. Do you know this man? No. Was he a friend of the family? Abby asked. Depends on who you ask. It was a vague answer, but Abby nodded as though what he said had made sense. So do you mind telling me why you want to find pictures of these two? Not just them. Sheriff Caldwell too. Why? Let's just say these three had a major role in what happened here years ago. Alex answered. Why do you want to know what happened in this cabin when it was so long ago? You didn't even own it then. I bought this cabin because of what happened years ago, Alex admitted. He pulled out a photo of a little girl holding a rag doll and gave a sad smile. I want to know what really happened here. But why? Is it normal for employees to question their bosses like you're doing now? Alex asked dryly. Abby couldn't read the man. 1 minute he seemed willing to answer her curiosity, and the next he was back to his cold and private self. I just wanted to know why you're so interested in gossip that's from such a long time ago. Pardon me for saying so, But you just don't seem the type to get involved in matters like these. If you really want to know all the gossip from back then, you could always ask Maria and her friends. She seems to know everything that goes on in this town. It's not gossip. Something tragic happened here, and I can't ask too much from the locals. They live here, so the tales have probably been retold and changed too many times to give me the truth. That's true, Abby conceded. Are you now you're hoping you can find out the truth? After so much time has passed? I have to. For her, Alex answered, sliding forward the photo of the young girl with the rag doll. Crystal Caldwell? Why? Abby asked. She was my sister. Abby's mouth fell open. The sheriff's daughter? How is that even possible? A corner of Alex's mouth tugged upward before asking, who said she was the sheriff's biological daughter? Chapter 16. Not her biological father? What are you talking about? Abby asked, sliding the photo across the table and back to Alex. Was she adopted? No, she wasn't adopted. Alex picked up the picture and sighed before placing it back into the album, smoothing the clear film over the photo. Abby placed the photo album she was holding on the table. Then what do you mean by saying she wasn't his daughter? For now, that's not important. What's important is that we find out what happened here 25 years ago. 25 years ago. Mr. Carter, that's a long time. Is it possible to look up the old police reports? Abby asked, as Alex pulled a few more pictures from the albums. That's not an intelligent question, is it? Considering who is currently in charge of the local authorities, it wouldn't be wise to go to them. Abby's head jerked back in surprise. You think the sheriff had something to do with his wife and daughter being murdered? Do you think he purposely covered his crimes? I'm not sure of anything at this point. If Don Caldwell did have something to do with my sister being murdered, it wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility that he purposely doctored the reports, would it? It'd be another case of someone in authority abusing their power. Abby frowned, thinking of her ex-boyfriend Bryce. He was one who definitely abused his authority over her. Okay, I'm in. I'll help you. If the sheriff ends up being a murdering pile of garbage, it'll be nice to see you take out the trash. Alex chuckled. Take out the trash? Abby nodded. I said what I said. We're partners now. He raised an eyebrow. You do realize that you get paid to assist me, right? I'm supposed to get a check for assisting you with your daily tasks, not for solving murders that happened before I was born, she said, corrected him. Luckily, I'm willing to add investigator to my job description. Alex cleared his throat before crossing his arms and hitting her with an irritated expression. Sorry, she whispered. His irritated expression was quickly replaced with confusion. Why are you apologizing? Because you looked angry. You're always apologizing, he remarked, twisting his mouth in thought. Do you feel guilty? About what? He didn't answer, which made Abby come up with several possibilities in her head. Being a failure? Losing my family? Murdering Bryce? About whatever it is you're sorry for, Alex answered. Abby bit her bottom lip. How could she explain to Alex that it was second nature to apologize without appearing weak? Forget it. All I want you to do is find out anything you can about Sheriff Caldwell, Alex told her. And how am I supposed to do that? I was told you got close to Maria and her friends. Was that not correct information? Abby nodded. I did, but her husband Chuck gets really upset when he catches her gossiping. What if he was somehow involved? Maybe that's why he doesn't like her gossiping with me. Or it could be he just doesn't like his wife telling tales. Alex grinned. You do realize he would have been a little too young to have murdered anyone, right? Abby's eyes narrowed. There are such things as teenage murderers, you know. Fine. Put him on the suspect list. Hell, everyone should be on the suspect list at this point. Get in touch with Maria and her friends. Between those women, I expect you to find out everything the sheriff has been up to in the past 25 years. Everything, do you understand me? Abby was torn. She wanted to protest because she really didn't want to be around Chuck, but on the other hand, she really wanted to help Alex get justice for his sister. Her decision was made when she remembered the stack of collection notices that had been tucked in a drawer inside her apartment, waiting to be paid. I'll find out as much as I can. But Mr. Carter? Yes? He replied absently, not really listening to her anymore. Why don't you hire a private detective or something? Wouldn't that be easier than you trying to uncover the past on your own? A grim expression settled on his face. I did, and it wasn't very helpful. This town doesn't share information as easily as you think it does. Maria and her friends think you're okay because you work for me and I live here. If someone from out of town who has no connection to this place were to try and dig up dirt, they'd end up hitting rocks. Besides, you were wrong about a very important fact. What's that? You said I'm uncovering the past on my own. That's not true. You're here, remember? You're helping me. Abby felt her cheeks flush. That was true. Can I ask you another question? Abby asked. You just did, her employer replied dryly. She ignored his remark. Why do you think Sheriff Caldwell had something to do with his wife and daughter's murder? He seems like a nice man. I guess I just can't imagine anyone wanting to kill a little girl. You don't know what happened that night, do you? Alex asked. He put his photo album down and sat back across the sofa. No. All I know is that Crystal Caldwell was killed. So much happened that night that not too many people are sure what's factual and what's fake anymore, Alex muttered. Crystal was murdered. That's true. The sheriff's wife was alone with her daughter, and the sheriff was still working. It was storming that night. From what the police reports indicated and what the private detective gathered, an intruder broke into the home. So you did look at the police reports? Abby pointed a finger at her boss, who frowned at her. She quickly put her hand down. Yes, of course I did. The report itself was vague. I truly think Sheriff Caldwell doctored the report. There was no one who could adequately give a story about what really happened that night. Supposedly the sheriff's wife was waiting for him to come home, but he didn't. He never came home that night. Why not? I'm sure Sheriff Caldwell intended to get home, but the roads to this cabin flood easily. There was an accident that held him up. What kind of accident? Abby asked, leaning closer to Alex, not wanting to miss a bit of information. A car accident. You've met Zachary Caldwell, haven't you? The sheriff's brother? The one who owns the grocery store and is stuck in a wheelchair? That guy? Alex nodded. The accident he had that night may have changed the course of everyone's lives. Why do you say that? Was he the reason the sheriff didn't get home in time to save his family? Alex laughed bitterly. Save his family? Sheriff Caldwell claimed he had been with his brother in the accident. That was enough time to come here and murder my sister before finding his unconscious brother, who could never be an adequate alibi. Abby sat back, stunned. I'm not following you. What do you mean? Zachary Caldwell didn't wake up from his car accident for 2 weeks. He had been in a coma, so he couldn't exactly tell the police that his brother had been with him the entire time. For all we know, Sheriff Caldwell snuck back home, did what he did, and then went out to find his brother. I can tell you don't like him, Abby said, taking in the bitterness in his voice. I would never have guessed how you really felt, considering how you were polite when he was here after I hit that tree. He had a reason to be here. I couldn't exactly be rude. You said that accident changed everyone's life. Who else was affected by the accident? Zachary. He wasn't always in a wheelchair. You mean that accident was what caused his handicap? Abby asked, remembering Maria mentioning something about Zachary's accident. Alex nodded. Abby stood up, pacing around the sofa that Alex was sitting in, trying to piece what crumbs of information he had given her. So how is Crystal Carter your sister? You said she wasn't adopted. Alex sighed and nodded. Right. Was she kidnapped? The surprise in her voice caused Alex to roll his eyes and chuckle. No? Then I don't get it. Abby sat next to him on the sofa. How are you two related? You don't have to. Just know that she's my sister. Abby's fingers tapped against her blessing bracelet. Why are you telling me this? Aren't you afraid I'll tell those reporters? Alex tapped his chin before pointing at her. Didn't you read your contract before you began working as my assistant? Truthfully, she had only looked at the salary amount before signing her name. There was a confidentiality clause in case you missed it, Alex said. If you tell anyone what we're discussing, not only would you owe me a large amount of money, you may even end up in prison. Abby gasped. He had to be lying. She couldn't chance it. Don't worry. I don't plan to share your secrets. It's just that what you're saying doesn't make any sense. If she wasn't adopted and the sheriff isn't her father... Abby held her wrist before asking, Did you two share the same mother? His silence was answer enough. Are you... Wait a minute. That's impossible. I Googled you after I was hired. You've been raised by your parents since birth. Because Google is always right, Alex said, rolling his eyes. I'll have you know Google has saved me several trips to the doctor. You have no idea how handy Dr. Google is when you don't have health insurance. If Google said your parents are your parents, it has no reason to lie. Fine, keep your faith in Google. It wasn't technically wrong. They are my parents. They did raise me. Abby stared at him silently for a few moments. He stared back at her, and for some odd reason, she felt somewhat of a kindred connection with him. Alex Carter was hiding dark secrets he clearly didn't want the world to know. When she was in her abusive relationship with Bryce, she too had dark secrets she wanted to keep hidden. They may have been your parents in every way that counts, but you're adopted, aren't you? That's how you and Crystal are brother and sister. Am I right? Instead of giving her a direct answer, he reminded her of the confidentiality clause. Remember your contract, Abby. It's more money than you can imagine the amount you'd owe if anyone found out. It was the first time he used her given name instead of Ms. Redding. Don't worry. I won't tell anyone, Abby whispered as she watched the man she had considered invulnerable continue to look at old photographs. The truth was that he had an Achilles heel, and it came in the form of his heritage. While Abby and Alex sat in the living room, going through photographs, Wally stayed hidden in the adjoining kitchen. They clearly had forgotten about him being an overnight guest. He had overheard the entire conversation and frowned before pulling out his cell phone and quickly sending a text. Chapter 17. Zachary Caldwell watched his brother with a mix of worry and anger as they sat in the back room of his grocery store. He was in his wheelchair while Don sat at the small table Zachary kept his computer on. You really aren't going to go out there? Zachary asked for the third time. I told you I'm not. Do I need to say it in Swahili for you to believe me? Don Caldwell adjusted his sheriff's badge as he avoided his brother's judging eyes. You don't know Swahili, Zachary muttered. It's not like I want to be bugging you, but Wally seemed really worried. He said those reporters scared that girl. She's not a girl. She's an adult. An adult who chose to take a job working with Alex Carter, Don reminded his brother. They didn't call law enforcement, so there's no reason for me to go out there. Why are you being this way? Is it because of what happened years ago? Because of Crystal? You went up there the other day when that lady was in an accident. Nothing crazy happened, Don. You survived it without any repercussions. Don't bring her up again, Don warned. Why not? It happened over 25 years ago, Don. Crystal's gone. It wasn't your fault. When are you going to stop blaming yourself? Wasn't it? Maggie had no one to help her protect Crystal. It makes me sick thinking of it. After everything that happened, she was the only innocent one in all this. Crystal and you, Zachary. That night will haunt me forever. Stop making me sound like some kind of saint. Zachary bristled at his brother's praise. If you're guilty, then so am I. I was the idiot who swerved his truck in the rain. I could have done something if I hadn't been speeding. It was raining, and you were worried. If it weren't for me asking you to check on Maggie and Crystal all those years ago, you wouldn't have gotten into an accident. You'd be walking right now instead of confined to a damned wheelchair. Don squeezed his eyes shut as he ran a tired hand over his face. It's all my fault. No, it's not. You had no idea what would happen that night when you asked me to check on them. I just wish I'd been able to get to them, Zachary whispered. It's all my fault, Don. Whatever guilt you have, let it go. Blame me if you have to blame someone. You told me to not speed and I did it anyway. No, it's not. They were my responsibility and I let them down. Then you had your accident and I couldn't leave you. They became silent, each reflecting on the painful and unchangeable past. You know, you never told me what you were doing before you and the ambulance came to get me, Zachary whispered. Don's eyebrows raised in surprise. What I was doing? Yeah. What kept you from your family and then me for so long? What had you tied up that you left the station so late? It was over 20 years ago and you expect me to remember? I should be asking you the same thing. What were you doing before you went to check on Maggie and ended up in that accident? I covered for you on the report, but we both know you were drinking, weren't you? Zachary leaned back in his wheelchair. As you said, it was years ago. I can't believe you're bringing this up now. Would you rather I have brought it up that night? Arrest my brother for a DUI only to come home to find my family murdered? Would that have been better? I've been sober all this time, Don. You weren't the only one who lost something that night. I know. You became paralyzed. I guess we all lost something important to us. Zachary cursed under his breath, shaking his head. Yeah, I wish I could run around again, but I wasn't talking about me being able to walk. Maggie and Crystal were important to me too, Don. They were my family too. We both lost them that night, except I also lost my brother. What are you talking about? You haven't been the same since that night. Not that I blame you. I'm just telling you how I see things. Anyway, let's not fight about it. I heard rumors that Alex Carter is looking for answers. Don frowned, his gaze falling on his brother. Answers? To what happened years ago? They never did catch that murderer, remember? Zachary reminded his brother. How could I forget? Don grimaced. And of course, there's no one that could stand as a witness. They didn't even find the weapon. The only person who could know what really happened is, will you stop talking about it already? Don stood up and began pacing the small room they were in. Why would Carter want to open up old wounds? You know why, brother. We both do. I told you not to sell him the cabin. I told you it would have seemed strange to deny a buyer just because of his last name. Besides, I have debt I needed to pay off. I couldn't exactly do that without the money the sale of the cabin brought in. It's been on the market for over a decade, but no one would touch it. Zachary shook his head. We all have debt, but sometimes you just have to worry about it another day. Selling that cabin to a Carter wasn't worth it. Think of the trouble it'll bring. You could have said you're still a grieving man if you were really worried about denying him because of his family. And lie some more? Don sneered. No, I've been through too much and I'm too damned old to deal with it again. Before his brother could comment, Don stormed off, leaving Zachary alone. Zachary pulled out his phone and texted Wally, reminding him to come back to work. Thoughts of the past and future ping-ponged in his mind, and Zachary wondered what was really going on in his brother's head. Abby closed her eyes and touched her blessings bracelet. I have a job. I'm alive. The trees around me are beautiful. Who are you talking to, Abby? Wally asked as he was making his way to his vehicle. Abby jumped. Wally, sorry. I didn't see you there. I forgot you were still here. I'm not a crazy person. I was just counting my blessings. Wally smiled. That sounds like a great idea, especially outdoors. He pointed to the trees around them. You can almost smell their life, can't you? My uncles used to take me camping. We always loved camping. Nothing beats the outdoors. She took a deep breath, the distinct scent of the earth dampened by the rain filling her nose. She wouldn't call that life, but she nodded anyway. That's great, Wally. Were you close to your uncles? He shrugged. They took care of me since my father wasn't really in the picture. Before she could speak, he pointed at a robin. Isn't she a beauty? If you listen carefully, you can hear them too. There's a lot to count blessings for if you really take the time to pay attention. Abby smiled. Wally was friendly, albeit a little odd, but she liked him. You're absolutely right, Wally. There are blessings all around us if we only stop to look for them. He nodded, watching the robin fly away. He turned back to Abby while opening the door of his car. I've got to get back to work. Zachary gets upset if I'm late. I'll see you later this evening. Sure thing, Wally. Be careful on the drive into town. Abby waved goodbye. For a few moments, Abby did try and take in the sounds around her. She closed her eyes and heard birds, crickets, the wind, and laughter. Her eyes opened quickly, and she slowly turned her head to her right. Standing there was a young girl. Blonde curls surrounded her face. She was wearing pink pajamas, and she was semi-transparent. Who are you? Abby whispered. The girl didn't speak but waved her hand, as if beckoning Abby to follow her. Abby rubbed her eyes and looked again in the girl's direction. She was soft and fuzzy, as if her body was blurred into her surroundings, but she was there. Ghosts don't come out in the day, Abby reassured herself. I'm imagining this. Laughter surrounded Abby, almost mocking her. You're not real, Abby said firmly. Again, the young girl lifted her arm and began walking into a cove of trees. An uncomfortable feeling shimmied its way down Abby's spine. Before she could think any better of it, she took a step forward to follow the young girl. Chapter 18. Goosebumps spread across Abby's arms as she followed the young girl beyond the grove of trees. Her footsteps became heavy, causing her sneakers to sink into the soggy ground as if the earth itself were warning her not to go forward. Abby? She stopped after hearing her name, slightly turned her head back and forth. The young girl was gone. Abby looked ahead, but didn't see her. Where could she have gone? Abby, what the hell are you doing? It's dangerous out here. Abby turned to see her boss, Alex Carter, staring at her incredulously. He was wearing designer jeans and a white turtleneck that was probably more expensive than Abby's entire wardrobe. Sure, now isn't the time to be exploring. We need to get into town, remember? Alex reminded her while lifting his wrist to look at his expensive watch. Abby looked back at where the young girl had been and shook the image from her mind before turning back to Alex. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I'm on my way. Your shoes are all muddy now. You should go back to the cabin to change them so we don't get the rental dirty. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Abby nodded before passing him to walk back inside and change her shoes. She couldn't help but notice that Alex was still staring past the trees to where she had been heading. Had he seen the young girl too? After they drove into town, Alex warned her. If you see those two reporters, just ignore them. They may try and pester you for answers, but don't say a word. Understand? Wally said they thought we were dating. You can't tell them anything. Yes, sir. He was staring at her as if waiting for her to say something. She glanced back at him with lifted brows. He rolled his eyes and faced forward. As if I'd date you, he muttered under his breath. Abby tightened her hands around the steering wheel. He was so rude. Did money really give him the right to say such hateful things? I wouldn't date you either. What was that? Alex asked, surprised. Clearly, he had heard what she said since she practically shouted it. She could have sworn she saw him smile for a second, but he was looking at her with a stony expression. I mean, well, I wouldn't date anyone after what I've been through. I'm sorry. Alex sighed. There she goes again. Ms. Apologies. Do you think I'd fire you if you insulted me? Yes. Alex laughed at the quickness of her reply. I suppose you're right to think that. I'm not exactly a lenient boss. Still, you have a get-out-of-jail-free card, so to speak. I do? My mother? Remember? She'd never let me hear the end of it if I fired one of her causes. It wouldn't hurt if you showed a little more backbone. It comes out every once in a while, but it needs to come out more if you're going to last with me as your boss. Causes? The description stung a bit, but Abby quieted the bit of pride that was screaming its indignation. A few moments of driving in silence had Alex tapping his chin in thought as he glanced at Abby. So, why wouldn't you date me? Excuse me? Abby wondered if she was having audible hallucinations now as well. You said you wouldn't date me either. Why not? I'm handsome, rich, and successful. I'm what most women would call a catch. Luckily for us both, I'm not fishing, Abby retorted, then quickly slapped one hand over her mouth. Alex raised an eyebrow. Well, we both know what you're capable of once you've caught your man. It was a low blow considering he knew what happened between her and Bryce. Abby stepped on the brakes, causing them both to jerk forward. What the hell? Alex growled at her. Abby lifted her hand as if to silence him before he could continue. Listen, I know you're my boss, and I know I have a past. It's not one that I'm proud of, but I'm pretty sure you constantly bringing up what happened between me and my ex-boyfriend is unprofessional. If you want to fire me, I can't stop you, but stop digging where there isn't any dirt. Bryce was abusive. I did something I can never take back no matter how much I want to, but what I did had to be done. It was him or me. And excuse me, if for once in my life I was selfish enough to pick me. She was breathing heavily, and her heart felt like it was beating 1,000,000 miles an hour. A corner of Alex's lips curled up. Well, she really does exist. What? Abby was confused. I was beginning to think the feisty woman I interviewed, the one who had the gall to inform me 2 + 2 was 4, that she was a fluke. All I've seen since was a quivering, apologetic excuse for a human being. A shell. I wanted the woman from the interview back. It's no fun when you're always apologizing. What? Are you purposely goading me? Abby's hands fell to her lap. Alex chuckled. Is that what you think? No, I'm not goading you. I'm just trying to figure you out. Why? You work for me. How can I gauge what you're capable of if you're not showing me the real you? The real me? Yes, the real you. So far, I've mostly seen a woman who's afraid of her own shadow. If you were to show more backbone, perhaps you'd get a real job in business one day. A real job? Is this a fake job then? Don't tell me you wanted to be a personal assistant all your life. I know you're broke. You had to take this job no matter what it entailed, didn't you? It was the truth. They both knew it, so Abby didn't respond. This may not be ideal for you, but having Calitech Industries on your resume can only open doors for you. Having a positive reference from me will really get you where you want to be. Where do you think I want to be? Abby asked. Alex leaned back, his blue eyes still on her. I don't know. Maybe where you were before you met Bryce? You seem like the type of woman who had big dreams, Abby Redding. She shrugged. Maybe. Right now I just want to do my job as best as I can and maybe help you figure out what happened at that cabin. There's something going on in there. Don't you agree? Alex asked quietly, as though testing the waters before continuing. Abby's eyes widened. What do you mean? Do you believe in ghosts, Abby? Her eyes flickered away from him. Do you? Alex looked forward again. I'm not sure of anything, but even if ghosts did exist, what good would it do me? It's not as if I can talk to them, and I still need to know the truth. I'll try my best to help you, Abby said. Good. We have an understanding. From now on, I expect to see the you with a backbone instead of your apologizing personality. Is that understood? I'll try to be less apologetic, more confident. That's what you mean, right? Alex nodded. Remember, you're here to help me figure out what happened 25 years ago. Someone in this town is hiding the truth about what happened in that cabin. I'm still not sure what happened, Abby admitted. All I know is that Crystal was murdered. For now, that's enough. Today, we're going to try and get as much information as we can from the locals. Just remember to be on your guard. Be on my guard? Abby put the car back into drive and began making her way into town. Trust no one, Alex explained. No one? Are you turning into a parrot today? No one, Alex repeated. Mr. Carter, whatever it is that we're doing at the cabin, You don't think it's dangerous, do you? Why do you ask that? I've watched a lot of television over the years, and people who get involved in old murders typically end up dead. Alex rolled his eyes. I doubt it's that dangerous. Just remember what I said. Trust no one. Not even you? Abby asked. A few beats of silence passed before Alex answered. He was still staring straight ahead. No, not even me. Chapter 19. Cletus Jones had always wanted to take pictures of war-torn countries or natural disasters. Instead, he wound up working with a reporter for some online gossip site that paid well if the shot was worth it. Jenny Blake wasn't the worst person he knew, but her self-absorbed nature made her difficult to get along with. Cletus focused his camera on the woman who supposedly was Alex Carter's girlfriend. He didn't understand what the big deal was when it came to Alex Carter. As far as Cletus was concerned, he was just a rich kid that had become a richer adult. There was no special mystery about the guy, but women drooled over him, and here he was in some random town no one would know existed unless they accidentally got lost there. Cletus glanced across the small grocery store in Bayless to stare at Jenny. Whether she admitted it or not, she was one of Alex Carter's fans. Cletus could tell. She hadn't taken her eyes off of Mr. Moneybags since he entered the grocery store. It was the same look his mother used to get when she saw the liquor store. It reeked of need and desperation. No matter how hard he tried, Cletus couldn't shake the ominous feeling that came over him when they drove into Bayless. Alex Carter was currently talking to Wally, who was behind the register. Meanwhile, Abby waved at Maria, who was dressed in a blue dress with pineapple print. Maria, I see you're all alone today. Where are your friends? Abby asked. Maria smoothed down her blue dress. They're probably at home. I came here with Chuck to get a few groceries. He wanted me to make my famous chicken casserole. Sounds delicious, Abby said, smiling. You know, I'm glad I got to see you today. I was hoping we could talk for a few minutes. Sure, I'd love to, Maria answered. What about? Well, it's about the cabin. Maria glanced around as if she wanted to make sure no one was listening. What about it? I kept thinking about the cabin. I was wondering why the sheriff just moved out so suddenly, even leaving his property behind. Mr. Carter has it in storage, but surely the sheriff would want to keep mementos of his family. Maria looked around again before whispering. Well, I'm not too sure since I was a kid myself back then, but the rumor was he was so shocked by everything he left it all behind. He was shocked that his family was murdered? I guess I could understand that. I still don't understand why anyone would want to murder a little girl. It makes no sense. Yeah, I could see how living there would be hard on anyone. I mean, I wouldn't want to live in the same place after that happened. Still, he didn't even take their pictures or belongings. Didn't you hear? Maria asked. Hear what? Well, after everything happened, Sheriff Don spent a lot of time with his brother in the city. Zachary was in the hospital after all. What was really odd was when Zachary came back, Sheriff Don didn't. Everyone wondered when Don would return. He wasn't sheriff back then, but you know what I mean. Anyway, he didn't. It was probably 2 years later before he returned. Many women noticed that when he came back, he wasn't wearing a ring anymore. Well, he was grieving the loss of his family, so that makes sense, Abby said. Maybe the ring was a reminder of losing the woman he loved. No, you don't know all the facts. Maria scowled, placing her hands on her hips. Well, tell me, Abby whispered. Being in that cabin is driving me crazy with curiosity. One night after he returned, he got roaring drunk and went on and on about his wife Maggie being an adulterous woman. A few of his friends tried to make excuses for him, saying that he had lost his daughter and was grieving, so he must have been speaking gibberish, but he just screamed at them. At least that's what my mother told me. Back then it was scandalous. Why would anyone want to cheat on Don Caldwell? But the things he said that night, they're still shocking. What did Sheriff Don say? That crystal wasn't his. It was the craziest thing. No one would ever guess that Maggie Caldwell would be having an affair, but it makes sense when you think about what they found in that cabin. What exactly did they... Maria, Chuck said, inserting himself neatly between the two women. Didn't I tell you not to be spreading rumors in this town? Chuck, I wasn't spreading rumors. I was just telling Abby about the cabin. Still, spreading tales to outsiders isn't a good thing. Let's go, Chuck said, placing a hand on Maria's shoulder. Where are we going? Into the city. I thought you wanted to watch a movie. Maria looked back at Abby. He never wants to go out, so I better take him up on this. I'll see you around, Abby. Yeah. Bye. Abby gave a brittle smile as she watched the two leave. Chuck was getting on her nerves. If he would only let Maria talk to her, she could find out more information about the cabin. Abby turned around to see the photographer from the other night staring at her. He winked and gave a slight wave, but she ignored him. Her eyes scanned the aisles and then the checkout counter for Alex. He was talking to Wally. You'll be back at the cabin tonight, won't you? Alex asked Wally. Yes, sir. It won't be a problem. I don't like Abby being scared, Wally answered with an awkward grin. He lifted his chin to the reporters and lowered his voice. That's them. Alex glanced over his shoulder to see who Wally was pointing to before turning back to him. That's very nice of you, Wally. I'll see you later then. Alex nodded before glancing over at Zachary, who was wheeling over to sit next to a standing Wally. You sure do come here a lot, Zachary growled. That's a good thing, isn't it? It means you're making more money if I'm buying more groceries. Zachary pointed to Jenny and Cletus. You bring them along too? They don't seem to be buying anything. Alex shook his head. No, they came on their own. I'm guessing someone left an anonymous tip that I was here. I don't see why anyone would care if you're here, but I don't like snooping outsiders. Zachary scowled. No one does. Alex agreed. Zachary pointed at Jenny and Cletus. You two gonna buy something or what? Jenny frowned and picked up a pack of gum. If I buy this, will you get off my back? No, there's a $25 minimum, Zachary said, crossing his arms. This ain't a rest stop. I'm here to make money. If you want to stalk Carter, do it on his property, not mine. Not waiting to hear them respond, Alex ushered Abby out of the grocery store. In their rental car, Abby turned to Alex. So, Maggie Caldwell was having an affair. Is that all you found out? I couldn't find out much. Maria's husband doesn't like her spreading rumors, and he seems to have a knack for stopping her right when she's about to get to the juicy stuff. Sheriff Don must have found out Crystal's wasn't his, and became upset. When he came back to Bayless, he got drunk and blurted out everything. So he said Crystal wasn't his daughter? According to Maria's gossip, yes. Alex tapped his fingers against the steering wheel, trying to think. So that's why he left all the belongings behind. He felt betrayed. Maybe, Abby agreed. Did you see those two reporters? You mean one reporter? The other is a photographer. Abby wanted to roll her eyes. Instead, she said, I'm taking that as you did see them. They were staring at us the entire time. Maybe I should get a badge or something so they know that I really am just your assistant. Alex chuckled, shaking his head. That won't be necessary. I'm not sure who tipped them off about you and I staying in a cabin together, but as long as they're around, we'll have Wally act as chaperone. Then we can easily tell our side of the story and get away with it. We don't need a chaperone. Doesn't matter. We still have one, Alex said. I know you probably believe me, but there's always a reason for the things I do, Abby. She decided not to reply to that. Wasn't there always a reason behind everyone's actions? After they arrived at the cabin, Alex stayed behind in the car and watched Abby disappear inside the main entrance. He waited a minute before pulling out a second cell phone that he kept on silent and read a text message. He grinned before responding anonymously. They really are a couple. They even share the same room in that cabin. If you get inside, you'll see how affectionate they are when no one is watching. Chapter 20. We got another tip. We need to get in that cabin, Jenny told her partner Cletus. Then we'll get our money shot. It's the scoop of a lifetime. We'll finally hit the big time, and show everyone I'm not just a pretty face. Cletus rolled his eyes, lifting his camera to his opened car window to snap a photo of the trees around them. You expect us to just break into the cabin? Aren't you afraid of getting arrested? Alex Carter doesn't seem like the type to let that kind of thing slide. What else can we do? Wait for an engraved invitation? Cletus leaned back in his seat, pressing the button to roll his window back up. Maybe we should think of a new plan. Like maybe we should make nice with the Norman Bates lookalike. What was his name again? He pursed his lips in thought before snapping his fingers. Wally. No, I don't think that'll work. He didn't even want us to take pictures of the woman staying at the cabin, remember? Then what? Cletus asked. We may have to sneak in and out. Jenny laughed. You up for that, Cletus? He was watching the dark clouds forming overhead. It looked like another storm was coming in. In and out like we weren't there? You expect us to not be seen? Exactly, Jenny smiled. Like a ghost. It looks like it's going to rain again, Abby said to no one in particular as she pushed back a gingham curtain. If it rains enough to flood the roads, we may not see Wally tonight, Alex said over her shoulder, his nearness causing her to jump. Alex smirked. Did I scare you? Abby brushed back a lock of hair with her fingers. She cleared her throat and shrugged. No, you just surprised me, that's all. You're very jumpy. Has anyone ever told you that before? Abby didn't respond. Well, if Wally doesn't come tonight, I guess we can expect a pretty tame evening, Alex murmured. What do you mean? Abby didn't have much room to move forward, but his nearness was uncomfortable. It wasn't necessarily in a bad way, but in a surprising way. Alex reached across her shoulder and moved the curtain back just as it started to sprinkle. After we figure out what happened in this cabin, I think I should sell it. I'm not a big fan of all the rain. What did you mean by a tame night without Wally? Abby asked again. Alex's right shoulder lifted. If he can't make it, neither can those reporters. We don't have to worry about being spied on. Abby watched him walk towards the kitchen. The rain became heavier as it pounded against the roof of the cabin. I think we should have dinner without him, Alex suggested, pulling out some steaks from the refrigerator. Do you know how to cook these? Abby nodded. I put them in the fridge to defrost. Alex began some bowls from a cabinet. Let's do a quick recap of what we figured out today. We know Sheriff Don knew Crystal wasn't his. Right, but you didn't seem surprised by that. Did you already know he knew? Alex pulled out a bagged salad from the fridge. No, but it didn't surprise me. What I don't understand is why anyone would murder Crystal. She was innocent in all this, Abby muttered. A clap of thunder sounded outside, and she jumped again, causing Alex to hide a grin. Jumpy, he whispered. Abby frowned. I'm not jumpy. A lot of people get startled by sudden noises. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Whoever killed her was a monster. I can't believe they haven't caught him. Actually, Alex was interrupted by the lights flickering. Abby touched her bracelet. We have a backup generator in case the electricity goes out. Yes, definitely selling this cabin, Alex said to himself. He glanced at Abby. Well, we might need that generator if the rain continues as it is. Abby turned to the steaks in front of her and began to sprinkle some seasoning on them. She flipped one steak over and noticed her hand was covered in red liquid. Is this blood? She whispered as she flipped the steak again. More blood poured from it. It wasn't thin and watery like she was used to from raw meat. Gross! What's gross? Alex walked behind her and looked over her shoulder. The steaks appeared to be bleeding. Blood was trickling off the cutting board and onto the counter. What the hell? Alex picked up a steak and blood slowly dripped from it. This can't be right. Okay. I'm not the only one seeing it this time. Abby sighed in relief. This time? Abby was about to answer when the lights went out. Mr. Carter, Abby whispered. Shouldn't the generator come on now? He asked. I think we may have to turn it on, she answered. They could hear the rain outside, followed by the crackling whip of thunder and lightning outside. They both washed their hands before Alex asked her, "I guess we should go turn on the generator. Where is it?" Yeah. Yes, of course," Abby answered. 3 loud pounds on the door stopped her from moving forward. "Did you hear that?" Abby asked. "Stay here," Alex ordered. He used his cell phone as a flashlight and made his way to the front door of the cabin. Abby quickly followed him. Again, 3 pounds against the door overcame the sound of the rain. "Who's there?" Alex shouted. No one responded, and Abby swallowed her fear before asking, "Should we call the police?" "Maybe it was a wild animal outside or something," Alex answered. He didn't sound convinced. "Let's just go check on the generator," Abby said. Several minutes later, they realized that the generator wasn't working. "I don't get it," Abby fumed. "I was able to work it last time. Wally showed me how. I don't know why it's not working." They made their way back to the living room when they heard a loud slam coming from upstairs. "What was that?" "It sounded like a door slamming," Alex said, stating the obvious. "I think we should call the police now." Abby pulled out her cell phone. "I don't think that's necessary. This cabin is old, drafty. Maybe it slammed on its own. And if it didn't, maybe it was Wally. Why would he come in and not announce himself?" Abby whispered. "Let's go check it out," Alex said, making his way to the stairs. "Let's? I don't want to check it out. I want to call the cops." Abby was shaking her head. "It's rained so much the roads are probably already flooded over. They won't be able to get out here very easily. Do you want to call them because a door slammed? We need to check it out first." Abby watched Alex make his way upstairs before she followed quietly behind him. "I deserve a raise for this," she muttered. They both stopped when they were upstairs. Coming from the pink room were muffled screams. To Abby, it sounded like a woman begging for mercy, shouting for someone to stop. "This was so not in my job description," Abby whispered. Alex turned to her and put a single finger over his mouth, signaling for her to stay quiet. Abby bit her bottom lip to keep from screaming. Alex grabbed a vase that was a decoration piece in the hall and placed his phone in his pocket. He quickly rushed forward, opening the door to the pink room, vase raised and ready to attack any intruders. A flash of lightning lit the darkened room. It was empty. "There's no one here," Abby whispered behind Alex, her phone now raised to shed some light in the darkened room. "But we both heard her, right?" "We heard something, all right," Alex agreed. "You've been sleeping in here. Have you heard anything?" "Not what we heard just now. I just keep hearing a little girl laughing. I've seen some shadows. Then there was the music box that played music for no reason, and that creepy ragdoll. Wow. As I'm saying this, it makes me think there's no way this cabin isn't haunted." "Something's definitely going on here," Alex agreed. "Let's go back downstairs. I think it'll be safer if we stay down there." "Safe from what?" Abby asked. "I'm not sure yet." They had reached the bottom step when they heard a loud stomping noise coming from upstairs. "I want to leave," Abby admitted. "I want to leave right now." "And where will we go? The roads are flooded," Alex reminded her. "We?" It was nice to know he wasn't going to abandon her. Abby felt her heart race. Thoughts of Bryce ran through her head. Fear was seeping into every molecule in her body, and she needed to escape. She needed to get out of that cabin. The stomping became louder, as if someone was running across the floorboards upstairs. I can't stay here." Abby made a dash for the door. "Someone's up there!" Alex grabbed her hand, stopping her. "Abby, where do you think you're going? It's storming outside. Remember what happened last time? You almost killed yourself." "I don't care. I need to get away from here. I can't let him get me. Not again." Abby pulled open the door and ran outside. "Abby, wait!" Alex shot out after her, the rain pelting him. A young girl's laughter echoed in Abby's ears as she placed a hand above her eyes to shield her sight from the rain. Just like before, the girl was transparent. She waved a hand at Abby, again wanting her to follow. Abby ignored the cries from Alex to stay put and followed the young girl. "Abby, wait!" Her feet splashed in puddles, mud weighing down each step she took. Abby pushed tree branches out of her way as she continued to follow the young girl. She lost her footing and almost fell, but quickly regained her balance. She could see the rain bouncing off a cluster of giant boulders ahead. "Abby, stop!" She watched as the young girl appeared on top of one of the boulders and pointed down. "Damn it! Are you trying to kill yourself?" she heard Alex shouting at her. Abby used the smaller rocks to reach the spot the girl was at. She looked down to where the girl was pointing, but didn't see anything. It was too dark. "If you break your neck, you're not getting a dime from me for workman's comp. Do you hear me?" Alex screamed. "Why won't you ever listen to me? I don't want you to get hurt." Another bolt of lightning lit up the sky, and then she saw it. A flash of silver down below, surrounded by the large boulders. She couldn't help herself even though she couldn't reach it. It would be dangerous to try, but Abby knelt forward, her hand outstretched. She felt a hand on her shoulder and someone yanking her back. "Are you crazy? You could kill yourself coming up here," Alex shouted. "I don't want to see you hurt." Abby's mouth fell open as she noticed Alex was standing in front of her, his clothes drenched in the rain. What are you doing?" Abby asked, still sounding dazed. "What am I doing? What the hell are you doing?" "I don't know. I was following her. I think she wanted me to come out here." "Who?" Abby hesitated only for a moment before answering. "Crystal." "Abby, Crystal's dead." "I know that." "Then how could you be following her?" "Oh, hell. Let's get back to the cabin. It's raining too hard for us to be out here." "No, there's something down there." Abby pointed down below. "She wanted us to find it." "Abby, you sound crazy right now. You know that, don't you? I can blame it on earlier. It was a bit scary, even for me." "I know you heard what I heard earlier. Neither of us can explain it. I don't want to admit ghosts exist, but stop trying to act as if nothing happened. What if she wants to help us?" Alex rolled his eyes and grabbed her wrist, carefully dragging her behind him as he headed back to the cabin. They were both surprised when they reached it. The lights inside were shining through the windows. "How did that happen?" Abby asked. "The electricity went out." "They must have turned back on. Hurry up, it's still raining hard." Alex pulled her forward as he sprinted towards the door. Abby refused to take a step further once they reached the porch. "You can't stay out here. We need to go back inside." "No, there's something in that cabin. I told you I think it's haunted, and no matter how much you refuse to believe it, you know I'm right." "Haunted?" Alex nodded, running a hand over his face. "Fine, I'll play along. If the cabin is haunted, who do you think it's haunted by? By Crystal? She wouldn't hurt you. Yes, but not just her. By someone else, or maybe several people. I don't know," Abby admitted. "Either way, I don't want to stick around and find out." "Who do you think is haunting this cabin?" Alex asked. "I don't know. At first I thought it was Bryce coming back for revenge. After hearing that woman screaming, I'm not so sure anymore." "What do you mean?" Alex pulled Abby onto the porch and out of the rain. "Talk to me, Abby. I can't help you if I don't know what's going on in your head right now." "You want to help me?" Disbelief laced her voice. "I know I can be an asshole, but I do care about what happens to you. Talk to me, Abby. Who do you think is haunting the cabin? Bryce? Your ex-boyfriend?" Abby shrugged. "At first I thought it was him. Like, what if he followed me here?" "At first? What do you think now?" "Now I'm wondering, what if Crystal's mom is also here? What if she's been trying to scare me because she knows..." "Knows what?" "That like the man that hurt Crystal, I'm also a murderer." The words were spoken so softly, Alex barely heard them over the rain. What if she wants to punish me? What if she thinks I'm just as bad as the person who killed her and her daughter? I can't protect myself from a ghost. I don't believe in ghosts, Abby. You shouldn't either. She gripped her bracelet and remembered his words earlier about having a backbone. Just because you're my boss doesn't mean you can't tell me what I can and can't believe. You're right. But in this case, I know you're wrong. How? Her hysteria was rising, and she couldn't keep her voice from sounding like a scream. You heard those footsteps earlier. No one else is here. You also heard someone struggling upstairs, but no one is in the room. Why are you being so difficult about this?
I don't want to believe in ghosts, but if I did, I don't think Bryce would have followed you here. If anything, he would be haunting me for being around you, wouldn't he? How would I know? Fine, let's just assume it's not him. If it's Crystal, she won't harm us since she was just a girl. That still leaves Maggie Caldwell. What if she's here? She's not here. Alex grabbed her hand and pulled her into the cabin. How do you know that? Because I know. How? Abby asked again. You can't promise me that Maggie Caldwell, Crystal's mother, isn't in there trying to scare me. Abby, I promise I won't let anything happen to you. Besides, let's say ghosts do exist and there was something up there. I guarantee you that Crystal's mom isn't trying to punish you in some paranormal way. Now let's dry off before we both get pneumonia.
How can you be so sure? Abby started to shiver as she followed Alex upstairs, her eyes looking beyond them to make sure she didn't see what she believed was Crystal's ghost. Alex cursed before answering, because Maggie Caldwell isn't dead. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, follow, and leave a comment to help me improve. Goodbye and see you in the next videos.